Chapter 1532. The sea of fire was endless. The ground was burned red and there were magma surging everywhere. The young man in white took Qin Feiyang and shuttled between the waves of fire. The divine power enchantment glowed with a hazy divine light, protecting the two of them. Roar! Suddenly, there was a beast roar in front. There's a beast? Qin Feiyang was surprised. It's not a beast. The young man in white said. It's not. Qin Feiyang was stunned. What he heard just now was clearly the roar of a beast. The young man in white did not explain and silently hurried on. Roar! About 100 breaths passed. Accompanied by a loud roar, a beast more than 10 meters long roared out from the waves of fire. Its appearance was very strange. Its body was like a dragon's body, but it had a lion's head. Its scales seemed to be cast from magma. In short, it looked very strange. Qin Feiyang could be considered to be experienced and knowledgeable, but he didn't know what kind of beast this was. However, its aura was very strong. It was a 9-star war emperor. Qin Feiyang frowned and said, "If this is not a beast, then what is it?" The young man in white was still silent, but he made a strong move. The power of the pseudo-god was like a blade and instantly cut off the beast's head. Ao! With a wail, the beast suddenly fell to the ground and died. However, what surprised Qin Feiyang was that there was no blood flowing out of the beast. Bang! The moment it fell to the ground, an incredible scene appeared in front of Qin Feiyang's eyes. He saw that the beast's body quickly dissipated, as if it was an energy body. Soon, his body disappeared without a trace. But on the ground, there was an additional gem the size of a cobblestone. This gem was completely red, and the surface was like a divine jade without any flaws. There were traces of flames lingering around it, exuding a mysterious power. Qin Feiyang was dumbfounded, as if he had seen something incredible. The white-robed young man waved his hand, and the gem flew into his hand. Then, he tossed it to Qin Feiyang. Qin Feiyang hurriedly grabbed the gem and turned it up and down, left and right, carefully examining it. This was actually the essence of the fourth fire. What happened? Qin Feiyang raised his head and looked at the young man in white suspiciously. After this fierce beast died, how could it become a piece of fourth fire essence? That ferocious beast just now was transformed from this fourth fire essence. That's why I said it's not a beast. The white-clothed young man said. The fourth fire essence is transformed? Qin Feiyang was stunned. Fourth fire essence, Kuei water essence, second wood essence, sixth earth essence, and eighth metal essence, when they reach a certain level, can transform into the appearance of a fierce beast. It's also very unique. For example, the ferocious beasts transformed from the fourth flame essence are known as scarlet dragon lions. The fierce beasts transformed from the Kuei water essence are known as ice dragon lions. Second wood essence, sixth earth essence, and eighth metal essence are respectively known as jade dragon lions, earth dragon lions, and golden dragon lions. The white-clothed young man said. There's such a thing. Qin Feiyang was surprised. These things were actually not recorded in the pill scripture. Roar! Suddenly, another 5 scarlet dragon lions roared out. The white-clothed young man raised his eyebrows and quickly killed them one by one. There were 5 more pieces of fourth fire essence on the ground. Qin Feiyang hurriedly picked them up as if he had found a treasure. He asked, "How many scarlet dragon lions are there in this place?" "A lot. There are too many to count," the white-clothed young man said as he galloped forward. Too many to count. Qin Feiyang's gaze trembled. If he could get all of them. He couldn't help but be excited. On the way. In less than an hour, he had harvested more than 30 pieces of fourth fire essence. Now, in his eyes, this sea of fire was equivalent to an inexhaustible treasure trove. However, when they arrived at a fiery canyon, the white-clothed young man stopped and turned to look at Qin Feiyang. After this canyon, I won't allow you to hunt any more scarlet dragon lions. Why? Qin Feiyang frowned. On the opposite side of the canyon, there is a terrifying divine beast sleeping. If you hunt the scarlet dragon lions, it is very likely that you will wake it up. At that time, you and I will be finished. The white-clothed young man said in a deep voice. What? Divine beast. Qin Feiyang's pupils constricted as he looked at the canyon. The canyon was more than 10 miles wide and was filled with magma. It was like a giant python that stretched horizontally to the end of the world. Looking at the sky above the canyon, there was only a stone bridge in front of them that led to the other side of the canyon. However, this stone bridge was also in tatters. It was burned red by the flames and seemed to be on the verge of collapse. The narrowest part was estimated to be only half a meter, which was only enough for one person to walk on. It won't collapse, right? Qin Feiyang asked. This kind of stone bridge was too dangerous. Don't worry, from the moment the miracle appeared until now, this bridge has always been there and has never collapsed. The white-clothed young man said. After he finished speaking, he took a step forward and took the lead to step onto the stone bridge. Qin Feiyang looked at the magma below and also strode up. As soon as he stepped onto the stone bridge, Qin Feiyang could clearly feel that the temperature was rising. The temperature of the flames had already begun to break through the divine power barrier and slowly seeped in. One could imagine just how high was the temperature here. It was not an exaggeration to say that even a 9-star combat emperor would be burned to ashes if he did not have the protection of the divine power barrier. Roar! When the two of them walked to the center of the stone bridge, a group of scarlet dragon lions suddenly rushed out from the magma below. With astonishing ferocity, they pounced on Qin Feiyang and Qin Feiyang. Qin Feiyang was about to make a move. But at this time, the white-clothed young man shouted in a low voice, "Don't tangle with them." At the same time he said those words, he grabbed Qin Feiyang's hand and left with a speed as fast as lightning. At the end of the stone bridge, there was also a vast sea of fire. Waves of fire rose dozens of meters, hundreds of meters high, covering the sky and the earth. The temperature here was even better. Even a 9-star combat emperor at the peak realm would not be able to hold on for 10 breaths. Whoosh! A moment passed. Accompanied by the sound of breaking through the air, the white-clothed young man rushed over from the stone bridge with Qin Feiyang. He stood at the head of the bridge and scanned the front. Where's the divine beast? Qin Feiyang asked. Still in front. Now, no matter what happens, remember, you can't make a move. And you can't expose your aura. The white-clothed young man warned with a serious expression and took the lead to restrain his aura to the extreme. Even the aura emitted by the divine power barrier was concealed. Qin Feiyang looked at the white-clothed young man and saw that he did not seem to be joking. He immediately retracted his aura. Immediately. Qin Feiyang followed behind the white-clothed young man and walked forward carefully. On the way, whenever they sensed the aura of the red dragon lion or heard the roar of the red dragon lion, the two would take a detour. About half an hour passed. Suddenly, a faint snoring sound entered their ears. This sound, Qin Feiyang was shocked. It's the snoring of that divine beast. The white-clothed young man said. Qin Feiyang became nervous. There was actually a divine beast. Moreover, as they got closer, he could already sense the aura emitted by the divine beast. It was actually a dragon's aura. Could it be a divine dragon? Qin Feiyang was surprised. Wait. Suddenly, his expression changed and he looked up at the divine power barrier. The barrier was actually beginning to distort, as if it was about to break. The high temperature continued to seep in, and the temperature inside the barrier was also getting higher and higher. It felt as if they were in magma and their bodies were about to melt. "We're almost there, hold on a little longer." The white-clothed young man transmitted his voice. "Okay." Qin Feiyang nodded. His lips were already cracked, his skin was boiling hot, and his eyes were bloodshot. About 100 breaths passed. The snoring sound became more and more deafening, like thunder. The dragon's aura also became more and more intense, making people fearful. The two rushed to a mountain ridge that was burned red, stood at a commanding height, and looked down. Qin Feiyang immediately turned pale with fright. Not far below, a behemoth was entrenched in the flames. Its body was more than 100 feet long and covered with palm-sized dragon scales. Its huge head was leaning on the ground, sleeping soundly. That turned out to be a fire dragon. The aura it emitted was extremely shocking. "Is it a fake god or a god of war?" Qin Feiyang asked. He never thought that there would be a real divine dragon here. "I don't know. No one knows how strong it is. In short, I'm no match for it. So you must be careful not to wake it up," the white-clothed young man said. Qin Feiyang was stunned. Didn't this mean that the fire dragon was very likely to be a real god of war? He couldn't calm down. The white-clothed young man said, "Do you see the stone door behind it?" "Stone door?" Qin Feiyang was taken aback. He raised his head and looked behind the fire dragon. Waves of fire were rolling behind it, and there really was a stone door standing behind it. The stone door was about 2 meters tall. It was dark all over and emitted an ancient aura. "Has the stone door always been here?" Qin Feiyang asked. The white-clothed young man nodded. Qin Feiyang's face suddenly showed a trace of disbelief. In such an environment all year round, even divine iron would be melted. But the stone door didn't even change color. What material was it made of? "We have to go through the stone door to get to the place we want to go, so we have to be careful. The fire dragon won't wake up under normal circumstances unless we touch its body. Do you understand?" the white-clothed young man said. "Yes." Qin Feiyang nodded. It meant that as long as they didn't touch the fire dragon, they could successfully enter the stone door. "Let's go then." The white-clothed young man took a deep breath and walked towards the fire dragon with familiarity. Qin Feiyang followed closely behind, not daring to even breathe loudly. Fortunately, this was the fire dragon's territory. The red dragon lions transformed from the essence of the fourth fire did not dare to approach due to the might of the fire dragon. Otherwise, it wouldn't have gone so smoothly. More than 10 breaths later, the two of them finally approached the fire dragon. The fire dragon lay on the ground motionlessly. The two of them tried their best to avoid it and approached the stone door. Suddenly, the fire dragon moved. The ground trembled and rumbled. "Oh no!" The white-clothed young man's expression changed drastically. He grabbed Qin Feiyang and turned to flee. But soon, the two of them realized that something was wrong. The fire dragon was still snoring. It didn't seem to have woken up. The two of them stopped and turned to look at the fire dragon. Their expressions were immediately stunned. Chapter 1533. The two of them heaved a sigh of relief. As long as the fire dragon didn't wake up. But when they looked at the stone door again, their faces instantly turned pale. Originally, although the fire dragon was there, they could still enter the stone door. But now, because the fire dragon turned over, it actually blocked the stone door with its head. "What should we do?" Qin Feiyang looked at the young man in white. The stone door was blocked and there was no way to enter. The temperature inside the barrier was also getting higher and higher, almost reaching the limit of what he could bear. "We can only wait. When it turns over again, it might move its head away. The young man in white pondered for a while and said helplessly. Qin Feiyang was speechless. This was not reliable at all. Regardless of whether the fire dragon would move its head away or not, who knew when it would turn over again? What if it was a few days? Or even dozens of days, hundreds of days, could he afford to wait? Even if he could afford to wait, the temperature inside the barrier was enough to melt him and burn him to ashes. The young man in white was also a little irritated. Suddenly, his eyes lit up, and he turned to look at Qin Feiyang, and said, "Aren't you a space divine object? Take me in to hide." This, Qin Feiyang's body stiffened. Bringing this person in, wasn't that the same as inviting a wolf into the house? No matter what, he couldn't do that. What? You still won't let me in? Don't forget, your life is now in my hands. If you don't listen to me, then you're courting death. The young man in white laughed sinisterly, his eyes flashing coldly. Hearing this, Qin Feiyang's heart suddenly surged with killing intent. But suddenly, the corner of his mouth lifted, and he secretly laughed. The function of the blood-soul technique is to destroy a person's bloodline power, right? The young man in white nodded and frowned. What do you want to say? You didn't kill me to study the purple gold dragon blood. If you use the blood-soul technique now to destroy my bloodline power, it is equivalent to destroying the purple gold dragon blood. Does the destroyed purple gold dragon blood still have value to you? Qin Feiyang smiled. The young man in white was stunned. He sneered and said, "You can actually think of this. I have to admit that you are really smart. However, smart people usually don't live long." Qin Feiyang said, "You don't have to worry about that. You should think more about how to enter this stone gate." He didn't take the white-clothed youth's threat to heart at all. This was because he was confident that he could break the blood-soul technique before the white-robed young man destroyed his bloodline power. The young man in white looked at him gloomily, then raised his head to look at the fire dragon and the stone door. His expression was uncertain. Time passed by slowly. Just as Qin Feiyang couldn't withstand the high temperature and was about to enter the castle alone, the white-robed young man gritted his teeth and said, "Let's take a risk." Qin Feiyang was bewildered. The young man in white said, "Let's go around the fire dragon first, kick it away, and then quickly enter the stone door." This, Qin Feiyang was petrified on the spot. What kind of stupid idea was this? Although kicking the fire dragon away did give them some time, the white-robed young man had said that as soon as he touched the fire dragon would wake up. And the fire dragon had the cultivation of a false god, so its speed was needless to say. If they couldn't enter the stone door in time before the fire dragon reacted, wouldn't they be doomed? The white-robed young man didn't have much of a problem. He could escape at any time. But what about him? He couldn't even withstand the flames here, let alone the fire dragon. If the white-robed young man abandoned him and ran away alone, he could only hide in the castle. If the castle could fly, it wouldn't be a problem. But the problem was that the castle couldn't fly here. Once he entered the castle, he would be trapped here forever without anyone's help. He wouldn't do such a thing. Of course. He still had the armor and divine crystals to protect himself. But the fire dragon's strength was unfathomable, and even the white-robed young man didn't know its true strength. What if it was a real war god? If it was a real war god, then even if the armor and divine crystals were revived, they wouldn't be able to save it. So, before figuring out the true cultivation of the fire dragon, he had to be careful. However, before he could say the word objection, the white-robed young man grabbed him and rushed behind the fire dragon like lightning, kicking the fire dragon's back fiercely. All this happened in a flash, and Qin Feiyang couldn't stop it in time. But after this kick, both Qin Feiyang and the white-robed young man were dumbfounded. One had to know. The white-robed young man was a false god, so how terrifying was his full strength? It was no exaggeration to say that it was enough to destroy a large mountain. However, his kick landed on Huolong's back, but Huolong's body didn't even budge, let alone send Huolong flying with a kick like he had said earlier. "You're not kidding me, right?" Qin Feiyang looked at the white-robed young man and asked. "Damn, do you think I'm in the mood to joke with you?" The white-robed young man glared at Qin Feiyang angrily. As a false god, he couldn't kick a creature that was only a few hundred feet away. How embarrassing. Roar. All of a sudden, a dragon's roar resounded through the sky. A gust of wind suddenly blew, and the calm sea of fire suddenly became violent. Qin Feiyang and the white-robed young man were startled and hurriedly looked at the fire dragon. They immediately saw the fire dragon open its eyes and two beams of divine power burst out. "Damn it, retreat!" Qin Feiyang shouted. "Tell me, where should I go now?" The white-robed young man said angrily. He gritted his teeth and simply kicked again. "How dare you!" The fire dragon sensed it and shouted loudly. Its giant tail rose like lightning and slapped Qin Feiyang and the white-robed young man. Crack! In an instant, the divine power ward was broken. "Is it so powerful?" Qin Feiyang turned pale with fright. The divine power ward was set up by the white-robed young man, but it was so fragile. The moment the ward was broken, the terrifying wave of fire rushed towards Qin Feiyang and the white-robed young man. Qin Feiyang didn't dare to hesitate at all. He left the white-robed young man and went straight to the castle. However, even if he managed to reach the ancient castle in time, his entire body was instantly covered in burns and scars, emitting a pungent burnt smell. "Tisk, tsk, tsk. Boss, why is there only a burnt smell when other people roast meat?" Fatso sat aside and looked at Qin Feiyang with a sneaky smile. "You're burned like this and you're still joking. Are you still a human?" Wang Yu glared at Fatso and ran to Qin Feiyang's side. She asked with concern, "Are you okay?" Luo Qingzhu and Lu Hong also looked worried. "I'm fine." Qin Feiyang waved his hand and took a healing pill. He waved his hand and an image appeared in front of him. Everyone immediately saw the fire dragon's giant tail smashing towards the white-robed young man. The white-robed young man was in the fire and his face was gloomy. His body was also covered in burn wounds. He raised his arm and clenched his fist. The power of the false god surged and he punched the fire dragon's giant tail. Boom! Accompanied by a deafening sound, the white-robed young man's arm was torn open and his whole body was blown away by the giant tail. The fire dragon stood in front of the stone gate and didn't move at all. This, Qin Feiyang and Fatso were dumbfounded. Huolong was able to injure the young man in white so easily. Wasn't Huolong's strength a little too ridiculous? "Boss, it can't really be a god of war, right?" Lin Yunfei murmured. His face was full of shock. "I don't know." Qin Feiyang shook his head. "Even I don't know how powerful it is, let alone you." Then, a solemn voice rang out in the castle. Everyone turned around and saw a 1-meter-long phantom snake floating in the air behind them. It was the spirit snake that Qin Feiyang had saved in the valley. The spirit snake stared at the white-robed young man in the projection. Its long and narrow eyes flashed with a sinister light. After that, it turned to Qin Feiyang and the others. "You guys can address this emperor as Yu Huang." "Yu Huang," everyone murmured. Qin Feiyang stepped forward and said with a smile, "You've recovered?" "Yes." Yu Huang nodded. The coldness in his eyes disappeared and was replaced by gratitude. "Thank you." "It's nothing." Qin Feiyang smiled and asked, "Have you been here before?" "Of course. But I've never entered that stone gate." Yu Huang said. "Stone gate?" Qin Feiyang looked at the screen and asked, "Is it because of the fire dragon?" "That's right. It's too powerful." I've fought against it once before. However, it only took an instant for me to be seriously injured. Since then, I've never been here again. Yu Huang said with deep fear in his eyes. The Golden Wolf King looked at Yu Huang and asked suspiciously, "What is this place? What's behind the stone gate?" Yu Huang looked at the Golden Wolf King with a trace of disdain in his eyes and said, "Haven't you been here before?" "You've been here before." Qin Feiyang and the others looked at the Golden Wolf King in surprise. Well, the Golden Wolf King smiled embarrassedly and said, "Brother and I did come here before, but we couldn't withstand the high temperature here before we even walked out of the canyon at the beginning, so we retreated halfway." The Silver Wolf King looked a little embarrassed. Yu Huang looked at the Golden Wolf King and the Silver Wolf King contemptuously and said, "You two don't have strength or talent, and you like to jump around and cause trouble all day long. If you don't change, you'll die outside sooner or later." "You're right, we'll definitely change." The two brothers were obedient and didn't dare to act rashly. They were even more obedient than little lambs. Back then, they accidentally broke into Yu Huang's territory and were tortured by Yu Huang. The scene was still vivid in their minds. Yu Huang looked away and looked at the screen again. He looked at the stone gate and shook his head. "I don't know what's behind the stone gate. But there's one thing I know." "What?" Hearing this, everyone looked at it. Yu Huang said, "That human came from behind the stone gate." "What?" Everyone's eyes trembled as they looked at the stone door in unison. Chapter 1534. While everyone was discussing, the young man in white and the fire dragon clashed a few more times. But without exception, the young man in white was at a disadvantage. He felt that in front of the fire dragon, he was like a 3-year-old child, unable to withstand a single blow. The injuries on his body were getting worse and worse. The fire dragon raised its head and looked down at the young man in white. It snorted coldly and said, "How dare you sneak out while I'm asleep? You've got guts." The young man in white's face turned pale. "Although we are old friends, I will never show mercy to those who ignore the rules." The fire dragon said coldly, his voice like a bell, shaking the sky. Then, that enormous body actually soared into the sky. "What? It can fly? Is it also the guardian of the miracle?" Qin Feiyang and the others were shocked. In the outside world, flying in the air was a very common thing. But in this miracle, it was very important. It could be said that if two people of the same level fought fiercely, if one of them could fly, it would definitely have an overwhelming effect. Not to mention, the fire dragon was stronger than the white-robed young man to begin with. Boom! The man and dragon clashed a few more times, and without any suspense, the young man in white had no room to fight back. One of his arms was shattered and blood spurted out. "You're stronger than I expected. What's your cultivation level?" The terrifying strength displayed by the fire dragon almost made the young man in white despair. "Do you think an ant like you is worthy of knowing my cultivation?" The fire dragon was overbearing and his eyes were full of contempt. The young man in white clenched his hands. Such humiliation was not only a psychological blow to a false god, but also mental torture. Suddenly, he noticed that the stone door that was originally blocked was revealed because the fire dragon rose into the air. "There's a way." He sneered and looked at the fire dragon. "I'm not the only one here. Damn it." In the castle, Fatso and the others cursed. This person was obviously going to betray them. The fire dragon stared blankly at the sea of fire around him. "You can't see it. Because he's hiding inside a divine artifact. He'll come out to clean up the mess when both of us are injured." The white-clothed youth sneered. "Mutual destruction." The fire dragon was filled with disdain. The white-clothed youth said, "He also said that he was lacking a divine beast as a mount, and that you were his best prey." The fire dragon's eyes were filled with killing intent. Fatso said angrily, "Bastard, how dare you slander us?" "He's not slandering us, he's slandering Boss Qin. But even so, we can only watch helplessly." The Golden Wolf King said helplessly. Not to mention the fire dragon, just the flames alone were not something they could step into. However, it was undeniable that this white-clothed youth was indeed disgusting. Outside, the young man in white looked at the furious fire dragon with a hint of mockery in his eyes. "There's one more important thing." "What?" the fire dragon asked. "He has purple gold dragon blood." The white-clothed youth said word by word, sonorous and powerful. "Purple gold dragon blood." The fire dragon's eyes trembled, and his huge pupils were filled with disbelief. Whoosh! It was also at this moment. The white-clothed youth used a mysterious footwork and disappeared into the stone door in the blink of an eye. Courting death. After the fire dragon reacted, he flew into a rage, and a divine light flashed in his eyes, bringing with it an apocalyptic aura as he shot into the stone door like lightning. Ah! Immediately, a scream came from inside the stone door. "Is he dead?" "In the castle?" Fatso asked. Qin Feiyang shook his head and said, "The mark of the blood soul technique hasn't disappeared, which means he's not dead yet." What a lucky bastard. Everyone was indignant. It was also at this moment that a terrifying divine sense rushed over and enveloped the castle. Oh no! The castle has been locked onto by the fire dragon. Everyone's expression changed. They hurriedly looked at the screen and saw the fire dragon staring at them. It felt as if he could ignore the existence of the castle and directly see them inside. Even Yu Huang couldn't help but feel nervous. What do we do? The Golden Wolf King panicked. If the fire dragon was only a pseudo-god, they could still take a gamble. However, judging from the current situation, there was an 80% to 90% chance that the fire dragon was a true god of war. Even if Qin Feiyang recovered his divine artifact and Yu Huang, they might not be a match for the fire dragon. "Come out," the fire dragon said. Everyone looked at Qin Feiyang in unison. Qin Feiyang's face was gloomy, and he suddenly turned to Yu Huang and said, "Accompany me to meet it." "What?" Yu Huang's eyes widened and he hurriedly shook his head. No, I haven't lived enough. If you want to die, you can die by yourself." The Golden Wolf King said angrily, "Boss Qin isn't afraid, what are you, a pseudo-god, afraid of? Who are you to speak here? Shut up for this emperor." Yu Huang glared at him. But this time, the Golden Wolf King didn't retreat and snorted coldly. "I think you're just a so-so. You only know how to show off in front of us, but when you meet someone stronger than you, you're just a weakling. Do you want to die? I'll fulfill your wish." Yu Huang immediately flew into a rage and pounced towards the Golden Wolf King. Seeing that the situation was not good, the Golden Wolf King took a big step forward and quickly hid behind Qin Feiyang. Yu Huang's eyes darkened as he stared at Qin Feiyang and said, "Human, since you saved my life, I won't attack you. Get out of my way. The Golden Wolf King is right. If you're not even afraid of me, what are you afraid of? Besides, we still have the castle. If the fire dragon really wants to kill us, we can hide in it again." Qin Feiyang said. Yu Huang looked at Qin Feiyang, his eyes flashing, but he didn't say anything. "You're a pseudo-god, stronger than us. You once made the Golden Wolf King kneel and beg for mercy, so don't let the Golden Wolf King look down on you." Qin Feiyang said again. Yu Huang glanced at the Golden Wolf King and said to Qin Feiyang, "Are you really not afraid of death?" "I am. But we have no choice now. We have to face it," Qin Feiyang said. Yu Huang gritted his teeth and nodded, "Okay, I'll go with you to meet him. Consider it repaying your favor." "That's the way." Only like this can you gain everyone's respect. Golden Wolf King laughed. Don't talk nonsense with me. If it weren't for Qin Feiyang, even if a god descended, he wouldn't be able to save you today. Yu Huang snorted. Golden Wolf King stood up and patted his chest. As long as you can defeat the fire dragon, I'll let you do whatever you want to me. I won't complain. Yu Huang was instantly enraged. Defeat the fire dragon? Wasn't he deliberately making fun of him? If he could really defeat the fire dragon, would he be so afraid now? This wolf cub was really courting death. Qin Feiyang shook his head helplessly and looked at Yu Huang. Are you ready? I'll deal with you later. Yu Huang glared at the Golden Wolf King. His false god power surged out and formed a divine power barrier that protected Qin Feiyang. Then he nodded at Qin Feiyang. Qin Feiyang didn't stay any longer. He immediately brought Yu Huang and appeared in front of the fire dragon. But seeing Qin Feiyang and Yu Huang appear together, the fire dragon's eyes revealed a hint of surprise. Greetings, Senior. Qin Feiyang took a deep breath and cupped his hands in salute. Facing such a terrifying existence, it would be a lie to say that he wasn't nervous. Greetings, Lord Dragon God. Yu Huang was also very respectful. Fire Dragon looked at Yu Huang and asked suspiciously, why are you with this human? Yu Huang smiled bitterly, it's a long story, then don't say it. Fire Dragon directly interrupted Yu Huang, and Yu Huang didn't dare to have any objections and stayed aside obediently. I heard that you have purple gold dragon blood. And you even said that you want this emperor to be your mount. Fire Dragon looked at Qin Feiyang and said. It's true that this junior has purple gold dragon blood, but asking you to be my mount is purely because that person from before made something out of nothing and maliciously slandered me. Qin Feiyang said. Made something out of nothing? I don't think so. You can even subdue Yu Huang, which means that your methods are not simple. Fire Dragon said. Yu Huang hurriedly said, Lord Dragon God, I wasn't subdued by him, this is a misunderstanding, shut up. Fire Dragon glanced at him with a cold light in his eyes. Yu Huang shrunk his neck and lowered his head, not daring to make a sound. Fire Dragon looked at Qin Feiyang again and said indifferently, whether or not you subdued Yu Huang, this emperor doesn't care, this emperor only cares about your purple gold dragon blood, quickly let this emperor take a look. You're so interested in the purple gold dragon blood? Qin Feiyang frowned, waved his hand and cut his wrist, causing the purple gold dragon blood to flow out. When Fire Dragon saw the purple gold dragon blood, his huge eyes immediately lit up. Following that, a fiery red wave of air appeared, ignoring Yu Huang's divine power barrier as it pounced in front of Qin Feiyang and swept away a dozen drops of purple gold dragon blood. After observing for a moment, Fire Dragon's eyes began to tremble, and he muttered, it really is purple gold dragon blood, but how is this possible? He is a human, how can he have the purple gold divine dragon's bloodline power? Could it be the child of a purple gold divine dragon and a human? Suddenly. Chapter 1535. This time, it was Qin Feiyang who fell into a state of shock. This fire dragon actually knew about the ancestor. Qin Badian. Yu Huang, who was at the side, revealed a trace of suspicion in his eyes. Speak. The fire dragon roared. Qin Feiyang's body trembled, revealing a trace of panic, as if he was intimidated by the fire dragon's pressure. But in fact, he was pondering in his heart. Because the fire dragon's eyes seemed to be a bit uneasy. Could it be that he had a grudge with the ancestor? If that was the case, then he couldn't admit it, otherwise it would definitely bring about a fatal disaster. But if he wanted to deny it, then he had to find an excuse. But the problem now was that only he and the ancestor had the purple gold dragon blood in this world, so how could he explain it? Wait. The fire dragon was a creature inside the miracle, so he should know nothing about the situation outside. In other words, No matter what he said, the fire dragon had no way to verify it. Are you trying to test this emperor's patience? The fire dragon's eyes turned cold, and a terrifying aura surged, rushing towards the barrier. Immediately, the divine power boundary began to distort. Seeing this, Yu Huang suddenly panicked and hurriedly shouted, "Qin Feiyang, quickly answer the dragon god, otherwise the two of us will be finished today." Qin Feiyang glanced at Yu Huang, then looked at the fire dragon and said, replying to Senior, "This junior doesn't know any Qin Batian." "You don't know?" The fire dragon was stunned, and said unkindly, "Don't try to fool this emperor. This junior wouldn't dare." "I really don't know him," Qin Feiyang said sincerely. The fire dragon said in a deep voice, "If you don't know him, then why do you have the same bloodline power as him?" "The same bloodline power?" Qin Feiyang was stunned, and said suspiciously, "Senior means that this Qin Batian also has the purple gold dragon blood?" "That's right." The fire dragon nodded. "This is too amazing. I originally thought that I was the only one in this world who possessed the purple gold dragon blood. I didn't expect there to be others." Qin Feiyang was surprised. Qin Batian, Qin Feiyang, the same surname, the same bloodline power, Yu Huang, who was at the side, was contemplating. Suddenly, it looked at Qin Feiyang with a glint in its eyes. There was no such coincidence in the world. This person was definitely related to the Qin Batian mentioned by the fire dragon. Although Yu Huang had guessed it, he didn't say it out loud. Fire dragon sized up Qin Feiyang for a moment. His expression softened a little as he said, "This emperor will ask you again. Are you really not related to Qin Batian?" Qin Feiyang shook his head. "Since you are not related, there is no need to keep you alive." The fire dragon instantly turned hostile. He raised his huge tail and smashed it at the barrier. "Not good." Yu Huang's expression changed greatly. This, Qin Feiyang was also caught off guard. How did it become like this? Didn't the fire dragon's expression soften just now? Could it be that he guessed wrong? The fire dragon and his ancestor didn't have a deep hatred. On the contrary, they were old acquaintances. Seeing that the huge tail was about to hit, Yu Huang was anxious and shouted, "Qin Feiyang, go to the castle quickly." Qin Feiyang. Hearing the name Qin Feiyang, the fire dragon was stunned. His eyes suddenly shot out a strong cold light. "You and Qin Batian both have the surname Qin. You both have the purple gold dragon blood. Don't tell me this is a coincidence." The fire dragon stared at Qin Feiyang with murderous intent and said word by word. And the huge tail didn't stop. Qin Feiyang quivered and hurriedly looked up at the fire dragon. He said, "Senior, please show mercy. I will tell you the truth." The fire dragon raised his eyebrows. The huge tail paused and stopped above the divine power barrier. Yu Huang breathed a sigh of relief. Qin Feiyang was also covered in cold sweat. The fire dragon's power was like the god of death. It made people's hair stand on end. "Don't say I didn't give you a chance. If you dare to deceive me again, I will not show mercy. Even if you hide in a spatial divine item, I will not be able to find you." The fire dragon said coldly. Qin Feiyang's heart skipped a beat. He could find them even if they hid in the castle. This guy was too confident. How could an ordinary spatial divine item compare to a castle? Huff. Taking a deep breath, Qin Feiyang looked up at the fire dragon's eyes and said, "To tell you the truth, Qin Batian is my ancestor." Ancestor? The fire dragon was surprised. "That's right. I can have the purple gold dragon blood because of my ancestor's blessing." Qin Feiyang nodded. The fire dragon said angrily, "Since he is your ancestor, why didn't you admit it from the beginning?" This, Qin Feiyang didn't know how to answer. The fire dragon said, "Are you worried that I have a grudge with your ancestor? And after knowing your identity, I will kill you?" There is no other way. Senior is so powerful. This junior can't be afraid. Qin Feiyang smiled bitterly. The fire dragon asked, "How old are you this year?" Qin Feiyang was stunned. He really didn't know how to answer this question. Because now, there were two concepts. One was the time outside. The other was the time inside the castle. And if calculated according to the time inside the castle, he was really not young. The fire dragon raised his eyebrows and said, "Is this question difficult to answer?" Yu Huang saw that the situation was not good and said anxiously, "Qin Feiyang, hurry up and say it. It's just an age. What's there to hide? Less than 100 years. Qin Feiyang said vaguely. What? When Yu Huang heard this answer, she was dumbfounded. In less than 100 years, he had cultivated to a 6-star combat emperor. This talent was too terrifying. Was he still human? Yu Huang wanted to swear. This was too unbelievable. The fire dragon was also stunned. Such talent could be said to be as rare as phoenix feathers and qilin horns. It was rare in the world. It could even be said that it was rarer than the divine beasts. Qin Feiyang asked, "Senior, what is your relationship with my ancestor?" My relationship with him. The fire dragon raised his head and looked at the sky. He seemed to be lost in his memories and did not speak for a long time. It seems like, even if we are not friends, we are not enemies. Qin Feiyang murmured and his heart finally calmed down. Your ancestor, he is the most outstanding young man I have ever seen in my life, extremely talented, arrogant but not arrogant. Especially his benevolent and righteous heart. Even this emperor admires him to the extreme. It can be said that he is a very perfect man. In this world, no one can be compared to him. Unfortunately, at this point, the fire dragon changed the topic and let out a long sigh. Unfortunately what? Qin Feiyang was puzzled. As for Yu Huang who was beside him, her expression was also filled with shock. He did not expect that this person called Qin Batian would be praised by the fire dragon. What kind of hero was he? The fire dragon said, unfortunately, because he was too benevolent, he forced himself to a dead end. What? A dead end? Qin Feiyang's eyes trembled. Could it be that his ancestor had really died? He asked, Senior, please tell me, is my ancestor still alive now? The fire dragon withdrew his gaze and looked at Qin Feiyang. Those who go to that place can only die. That place? Qin Feiyang was stunned and asked in surprise, what place? The fire dragon said, the 3rd floor of the miracle. There is a 3rd floor of the miracle. Yu Huang's body trembled and his eyes were full of shock. When Qin Feiyang heard this, he was similarly shocked to the point of being tongue-tied. All along, he had thought that there were only 2 floors of the miracle, but he did not expect there to be a 3rd floor. The 3rd floor is countless times more dangerous than the 1st and 2nd floor. Even this emperor does not dare to enter. Do you know what those who know about the 3rd floor call it? The fire dragon said. Qin Feiyang and Yu Huang looked at each other and shook their heads at the fire dragon. We call it hell. The fire dragon said. Hell. Heard of it. Qin Feiyang and Yu Huang's eyes trembled. Even a terrifying existence like the fire dragon regarded it as hell. How terrifying was the 3rd floor? But, the fire dragon suddenly changed the topic and looked at Qin Feiyang with a cold light surging in his eyes. Although this emperor admires your ancestor, he deserved to die. This, Qin Feiyang was stunned. The fire dragon continued, and he was forced into the 3rd floor by this emperor. Oh no! Yu Huang immediately realized that something was wrong. Chapter 1536. At the same time, Qin Feiyang's body and mind were also trembling. His eyes were filled with disbelief and he couldn't recover for a long time. His ancestor entered the third level because of the fire dragon. Didn't that mean that the fire dragon killed his ancestor single-handedly? Qin Feiyang slowly raised his head and looked at the fire dragon. Say that again. Huh, don't say it once. It'll be the same 10 times. Qin Batian was forced to the third level by me. Do you think that I'm old friends with Qin Batian? Let me tell you, you're way too wrong. I only have hatred for him. It's really a pity that I couldn't kill him with my own hands. The fire dragon laughed sinisterly and his eyes were filled with ferocity. You, shut up. Qin Feiyang clenched his fists. His black hair and eyes were instantly blood-red and a monstrous murderous aura surged from his body. Qin Feiyang, don't be rash. You're no match for it. Yu Huang hurriedly sent a telepathic message when he saw this. However, Qin Feiyang turned a deaf ear to him. His eyes were filled with blood-red light and he was like a ferocious beast with a murderous aura. It's over, it's over. Yu Huang was burning with anxiety. What should he do? Qin Feiyang had obviously lost his mind. With his strength, it was impossible for him to be a match for the fire dragon. From the looks of it, you must really want to kill this emperor and avenge your family's ancestors. However, do you have the ability to do so? In front of me, you're just an ant that can't withstand a single blow. The fire dragon's expression was full of contempt. Even an ant can defeat an elephant. Qin Feiyang's eyes were filled with coldness and his blood qi surged out. Clang! A divine armor appeared, glowing with a dazzling purple-gold divine light. As his blood qi surged in, a monstrous divine power surged out. A divine artifact. Using blood qi to recover. This guy is crazy. He's digging his own grave. Yu Huang was dumbfounded. The fire dragon also looked at Qin Feiyang mockingly. Using vitality to revive a divine artifact. What an idiot. Rumble. However, another 5-colored crystal suddenly appeared above Qin Feiyang's head. It was the deity crystal. His qi and blood instantly split into two. Half flowed into the armor while the other half flowed into the divine crystal. The two divine weapons glowed brightly. A destructive shockwave rolled wildly within the divine power barrier that Yu Huang had set up. This, Yu Huang's eyes almost popped out of their sockets. Not only did he want to revive a divine artifact, but he also wanted to revive 2 divine artifacts at the same time. Did this guy really want to die? You're digging your own grave. The fire dragon looked at Qin Feiyang mockingly. Qin Feiyang remained silent. His eyes flickered with incomparable craziness. At this moment, there was only one thought in his mind, which was to kill this bastard and avenge his ancestor. The divine power of the divine crystal and the armor became more and more terrifying. However, Qin Feiyang's expression did not reveal the slightest bit of weakness. This doesn't seem right. Yu Huang was surprised. One had to know that Qin Feiyang was reviving 2 divine artifacts at the same time. How terrifying was the speed of his qi and blood loss. But why was Qin Feiyang still so energetic? The fire dragon gradually realized that something was wrong. The destructive power of the 2 divine artifacts was getting stronger and stronger, almost comparable to that of a false god. However, this person's qi and blood were not exhausted. This didn't make sense. Could it be, his qi and blood were endless? But how was this possible? Rumble. Crack. The divine power barrier that Yu Huang had set up shattered under the impact of the divine power. That divine might was like a wild horse that had broken free of its reins, covering the sky and the earth as it spread out in all directions. The earth shattered. The fire waves were annihilated. Even Yu Huang couldn't withstand it and kept on retreating. Its expression was filled with astonishment. It didn't expect that this little guy, who was only a 6-star combat emperor, would have such terrifying means. I don't believe that the qi and blood in your body can't be used up. The fire dragon said coldly. If you have the ability, don't make a move. Qin Feiyang sneered. Reviving a divine artifact required time. The longer the time, the stronger the power. Therefore, it was an excellent opportunity for him if the fire dragon didn't make a move. Qi and blood were endless. Rumble. Clang. Finally. Accompanied by a deafening sound, the aura of the armor and the divine crystal soared by a large margin. A surge of pure divine might erupted in this world. The void cracked inch by inch. Even the sky was trembling. Break the void. The power of these two divine artifacts has reached the level of a war god. Yu Huang was dumbfounded. What the hell was going on? Not to mention Qin Feiyang's cultivation level, it would be very difficult for it to revive one divine artifact, let alone two at the same time. There's a problem. The fire dragon's face gradually darkened. Rumble. Suddenly. It raised its giant tail, which was surging with divine light, and with the power to destroy the world, it slammed towards Qin Feiyang. What's wrong? Are you starting to panic? Can't help but make a move. I thought you were very powerful, but it turns out that you're just a so-so. Qin Feiyang sneered and activated the battle character art, double defense. No matter how powerful your cultivation level is, I will kill you today, I swear. Immediately after. He roared to the sky, his blood-red hair fluttering, and the divine crystal broke through the sky and collided with the giant tail. Rumble. A loud explosion suddenly occurred, like rolling thunder, shaking the sky for thousands of miles. At the same time, there was a wave of destructive air with Qin Feiyang in the fire dragon as the center, roaring in all directions, destroying everything. This is too terrifying. Yu Huang, who had retreated far away, saw this and continued to retreat, its face full of fear. It realized that the current Qin Feiyang was strong enough to instantly kill it. In the center of the battlefield. The wind howled. The ground was already shattered. Only the stone door was still standing there, completely undamaged. Although the divine crystal had been revived, the fire dragon's strength seemed to be stronger. Not only was the divine crystal knocked away, but Qin Feiyang was also sent flying. Even with 2 layers of defense, he was seriously injured and blood flowed out. An ant will always be an ant. Even if you fully revive the 2 divine artifacts, you can't stop my determination to kill you. The fire dragon's eyes were full of contempt. A wave of fire surged out from its body. It was formed by divine power. The mighty divine power could destroy heaven and earth. However, even if Qin Feiyang was injured, his expression did not change. His vitality was still flowing into the divine crystal and armor, and his aura became more and more terrifying. He looked coldly at the fire dragon and waved his hand. The divine crystal broke through the air again, and the 5-colored divine light shone in all directions. Its power was stronger than before. Rumble. The divine crystal and the wave of fire collided. This time, the scene of a crushing defeat didn't appear. The divine crystal and the wave of fire were in a stalemate in the void. This, the fire dragon found it hard to accept. However, Qin Feiyang was overjoyed. From this point, it could be seen that the fire dragon had not reached an invincible state. There was still hope. Rumble. Poof. After a few seconds of stalemate, the divine crystal flew out. The wave of fire formed by divine power rushed towards Qin Feiyang. Qin Feiyang's eyes shone brightly, and his vitality surged into the armor. A wave of blood suddenly emerged from the armor. A blood-colored light curtain instantly blocked in front of Qin Feiyang. Rumble. The wave of fire hit the light curtain, and the light curtain immediately shook violently. In the end, it only lasted for 5 breaths before the light curtain shattered. In an instant, the wave of fire drowned Qin Feiyang. Although he had the armor, Qin Feiyang still felt a fatal crisis. Because his body was melting. The fire dragon said contemptuously, "This is the difference between you and me. No matter how many divine weapons you have, it won't help." "Is that so?" Qin Feiyang stepped out of the wave of fire, and the armor and divine crystal emitted a dazzling divine light. Although his injuries had worsened, there was an unconcealable joy on his blood-stained face. Because now, he at least had the ability to compete with the fire dragon. Moreover, the divine crystal and armor had not fully recovered yet. He was confident that once the divine crystal and armor fully recovered, he would definitely be able to crush the fire dragon. Looking at Qin Feiyang's current appearance, the fire dragon couldn't help but raise his eyebrows. He suddenly closed his eyes and snorted coldly. "I won't let you continue to jump around. Die for me." As soon as he finished speaking, he suddenly opened his eyes. Two fiery red divine lights burst out of his eyes. The aura emitted by these two divine lights was even stronger than the wave of fire formed by divine power. But at the same time, under the recovery of his vitality, the power of the divine crystal and armor was also a level higher than before. "If you attacked with all your strength from the beginning and didn't give me a chance to recover the divine weapon, I would definitely be dead now. But unfortunately, you were too conceited and arrogant. Now, you no longer have the ability to kill me." Qin Feiyang smiled proudly. The divine crystal shattered the void and blasted towards the two divine lights. Boom! Accompanied by a loud noise, under Qin Feiyang's incredulous gaze, the divine crystal was actually blasted away in an instant. How is this possible? Wasn't it in a stalemate just now? Could it be, those two divine lights were evolved from a divine technique? Qin Feiyang was both shocked and furious. "At least you have some eyesight. As the former guardian of the miracles, how can I not have a divine technique?" The fire dragon sneered. "Former guardian?" Qin Feiyang was stunned. Why did he say, former? But before he could think about it, the two divine lights had already charged towards him. Without hesitation, he took a step forward, and two beams of divine light swept past him. Clang! Although he avoided the divine lights head-on, the aura of the two divine lights blasted onto the armor on his body and directly sent him flying. With a boom, he smashed into the ground in the distance. As the thick smoke rose, a huge sinkhole appeared. He lay in the sinkhole. Although the armor was not broken, the body under the armor was already full of scars. Purple gold dragon blood constantly flowed out through the gaps in the armor. Many of the bones in his body were also broken. But his blood-red eyes did not have the slightest fear. On the contrary, he only felt that the bloodline power in his body seemed to be burning and boiling crazily. His eyes also became sharper and sharper. The battle intent revealed not only did not diminish at all, but also became more and more terrifying. The fire dragon must be killed. He suddenly got up, took out a dozen healing pills and bone-replenishing pills, and swallowed them into his stomach in one breath. In addition to the merged fire of life and the self-healing ability of the purple gold dragon blood, his injuries were healing at a speed visible to the naked eye. Immediately. Chapter 1537. Is this brat even human? Looking at Qin Feiyang, Yu Huang didn't know how to describe his feelings at this moment. In the face of such a powerful enemy, if it were anyone else, they would have fled long ago. But this person didn't run away. Instead, he became more and more courageous. He was simply a monster. Didn't you just say that you were going to destroy me? But now, why am I still alive and well? Qin Feiyang sneered as he charged towards the fire dragon. He was full of provocation. The fire dragon was enraged when it heard this. Indeed. Previously, it had thought that those two divine lights would be able to kill Qin Feiyang. But it had never thought that this human was like a cockroach that couldn't be killed and would stand up again and again. You can't kill me. Instead, you'll die in my hands in the end. Qin Feiyang laughed. He's too arrogant. If this kid doesn't die, he'll definitely become a hero in the future. Yu Huang's eyes trembled. It had lived in the divine ruins for tens of thousands of years and had seen many geniuses from the outside world, as well as many arrogant people. But it was the first time it had seen such an arrogant person. The fire dragon was already trembling with anger. When it opened its eyes, another two beams of divine light shot out from them. One from the left and the other from the right, they charged towards Qin Feiyang. Qin Feiyang defended with his armor and attacked with his divine crystal, but he was still no match for it. He was sent flying again and created a huge pit. But soon, he crawled up again, his aura surging. The cycle continued. After a few rounds, the fire dragon couldn't stay calm anymore. It looked at Qin Feiyang as if he were a monster. Was this really the reincarnation of a cockroach? At this moment, 2/3 of the divine crystal and armor had been recovered. Divine might could destroy the world. The fire dragon became more and more frightened. It couldn't drag on like this any longer. Otherwise, it would really be dangerous later. This time, I'll definitely kill you. It shouted coldly, and a dazzling divine light shot out from between its eyebrows. It was a dragon scale. It was the size of a palm and looked like it was cast from lava. Its entire body was surrounded by flames and emitted a destructive aura. This is, Yu Huang's eyes flickered as he sent a telepathic message, this is its reverse scale. It's sharper than a divine weapon. Don't clash with it. Reverse scale. Qin Feiyang mumbled. He looked up at the divine crystal and muttered, show me your power. After saying that, his qi and blood surged into the divine crystal. However, to his surprise, the power of the divine crystal did not increase any further. It remained at 2/3 of its peak state. Are you dumbfounded? Even if your vitality is endless, as long as you don't have divine power, you won't be able to fully recover. This is a divine artifact. How could an ordinary person like you possibly wield a grand divine artifact? The fire dragon laughed. Qin Feiyang's eyes sank as he checked the state of the armor. As expected, the recovery state of the armor was maintained at 2/3, and it could no longer recover. In other words, he had to wait until he condensed divine power to fully exert the power of the divine artifact. 2/3, Qin Feiyang murmured. He suddenly looked up at the divine crystal and roared, I don't believe that you're just an ordinary divine artifact. Show me your power. Boom! He waved his hand and the divine crystal cut through the void and collided with the reverse scale. Clang! In an instant, sparks flew everywhere. The divine crystal only lasted for 3 breaths before it was blown away by the reverse scale. And there was a gap on the divine crystal. This, Qin Feiyang's eyes were dull and blood flowed out of his mouth. Its reverse scale is too strong. Even if your divine artifact is fully recovered, you might not be its opponent. Don't fight anymore. Go to the castle quickly. Otherwise, your divine artifact will be destroyed. Yu Huang roared secretly. Qin Feiyang's eyes flickered. He reached out and grabbed the divine crystal. The powerful recoil forced him back again and again. His internal organs were ruptured. His injuries had undoubtedly worsened again. However, he did not care about his injuries at all. He stared at the reverse scale that was flying toward him. The sharp edge of the reverse scale was destructive in all directions, making one's scalp tingle. Why are you so persistent? As the saying goes, 10 years is not too late for a gentleman to take revenge. With your talent, it's only a matter of time before you catch up to it. Why are you so impulsive now and insist on fighting to the death with it? It's not worth it. Yu Huang sighed faintly. He felt that it was a pity. 10 years is not too late for a gentleman to take revenge, Qin Feiyang muttered. His body shook violently, and a monstrous battle intent burst out of his body. It was as if he had transformed into a war god. He shouted, 10 years is too long. I'm seizing every moment. Clang! A light flashed out of his body. It was Chang Shui. Although the guardians of the miracle realm had said that he was not allowed to use Chang Shui again, he could not care less now. He swore that he would not give up until he killed the fire dragon. Qin Feiyang put away the divine crystal and grabbed Chang Shui. His qi and blood surged madly into it like a tidal wave. Clang! Chang Shui quickly recovered. With Qin Feiyang as the center, streaks of terrifying sharpness surged out in all directions from all directions. The violent wind turned into a tornado, sweeping in all directions. Even if the guardians of the miracle realm come today, they won't be able to protect you. Qin Feiyang roared. He used phantom steps and rushed forward without looking back. The armor emitted a dazzling light, protecting him in all directions. Whoosh! Finally, Qin Feiyang and the reverse scale met. Qin Feiyang's eyes were filled with murderous intent. He raised Chang Shui and slashed at the reverse scale. With a loud clang, the reverse scale was instantly split into two and flew past Qin Feiyang. What? Yo Huang's eyes widened in anger. The fire dragon howled and looked at Qin Feiyang in disbelief. To be exact, it was looking at the Chang Shui in Qin Feiyang's hand. It could actually destroy the reverse scale. And it was as simple as cutting vegetables. Oh my God! What kind of divine weapon was that? It was too terrifying. I said, you will die in my hands in the end. Qin Feiyang roared and suddenly jumped up. He grabbed Chang Shui and stabbed at the top of the fire dragon's head. The fire dragon panicked. Although the reverse scale was only a part of its body, it was closely related to its life. Once the reverse scale was destroyed, its strength would instantly drop by more than half. It's you again. Did you take my words for granted? Stop right there. But at this time, a majestic voice sounded. In the sky, the guardian python appeared out of thin air. Looking at Qin Feiyang, its eyes flashed with a cold light. But Qin Feiyang turned a deaf ear. His blood-red eyes were filled with a murderous light, like a demon god. Puchi! Chang Shui fell and the blade sank into the top of the fire dragon's head. Dragon blood suddenly spurted out. The fire dragon howled and raised its huge tail, slapping Qin Feiyang away, and then quickly rose into the air. And Chang Shui was left on the top of the fire dragon's head. Bang! Qin Feiyang smashed onto the ground and spat out a mouthful of blood. However, he didn't even bat an eyelid from the beginning to the end. He immediately got up, raised his head and stared at the fire dragon. He said coldly, if I want you to die, you will die. Even if a god descends to the mortal world, he won't be able to save you. Finished. With a wave of his hand, the Chang Shui that was left on the top of the fire dragon's head released an unprecedented sharpness. The entire Chang Shui directly shattered the top of the head and entered the fire dragon's sea of consciousness. Following closely, Chang Shui was like a sharp arrow, following the fire dragon's body and flying out from the dragon's tail. In other words, the entire body of the fire dragon was pierced through by Chang Shui. Dragon blood was like a waterfall, dyeing the sky red. Aoo, the fire dragon howled miserably. With a bang, he fell to the ground powerlessly. The flames on his body gradually dissipated, and his life force was also rapidly draining away. This scene. Not only for Baiming Yu Huang, even the guardian python was dumbfounded. He actually killed the fire dragon. Although the fire dragon was not dead yet, he was not far from death. Terrifying. What a terrifying young man. However, the truly terrifying thing was the dagger in his hand. It was simply a heaven-defying divine artifact. Ancestor, if you really die, you can rest in peace. Qin Feiyang looked at the fire dragon and muttered to himself. Chang Shui floated above his head, casting down strands of divine light to protect him. For a moment, this place fell into a dead silence. Impudent. Suddenly, the guardian python let out a furious roar, and a terrifying divine might pounced towards Qin Feiyang. Qin Feiyang suddenly raised his head, looked at the giant python, and laughed sinisterly. Do you dare to touch me? The giant python was stunned for a moment, then immediately burned with anger, and shouted, then this venerable one will try and see how capable you are. Not only did he kill the fire dragon, he even provoked it. He was simply arrogant to the extreme. Qin Feiyang grinned, closed his eyes, and his consciousness entered the inner world. Looking at the inner demons sitting cross-legged in the void, he laughed. You haven't been out for a long time. It has been a long time. The inner demons nodded and asked, are you tired? Qin Feiyang laughed, I'm a little tired, go out and play. That's what I was thinking. The inner demons suddenly stood up and disappeared in an instant. At the same time, outside, Qin Feiyang suddenly opened his eyes, and his entire temperament changed drastically. The killing intent all over his body was like flames. Yu Huang was surprised. Although it did not know what had happened, it could feel that the current Qin Feiyang was different from the previous Qin Feiyang. Although the previous Qin Feiyang was crazy, the murderous aura on his body was not very strong. At this moment, Qin Feiyang was like a demon with murderous aura. Whoosh! The inner demon's Qin Feiyang looked up at the giant python and laughed. The guardian of the miracle, is it? I really want to know, what qualifications do you have to order me around? Boom! Chang Shui's qi and blood surged wildly, and his divine power became more and more terrifying. It was like a wave that met the giant python's divine power. With a loud bang, the two divine powers collided and rolled in the sky. The void was annihilated and turned into nothingness. It was like chaos. So strong. The giant python's pupils contracted. Hee. The inner demons grinned, and the word, kill, appeared between its eyebrows. The fire dragon's divine blood immediately rushed toward the word, kill. The fire dragon was a true god of war. The energy contained in the divine blood was enormous. In less than 5 breaths, the inner demon's Qin Feiyang's cultivation soared to the peak of the 9-star combat emperor realm. What kind of heaven-defying divine skill is this? Yu Huang was dumbfounded. Although its cultivation was stronger than Qin Feiyang's original body in the inner demon's techniques made it feel an indescribable fear. Come on. Let's see if you're stronger than me. Chapter 1538. In the face of the inner demon's repeated provocations, the guardian python couldn't help but fly into a rage out of humiliation. It looked coldly at the inner demons and said, if you want to die, I'll fulfill your wish. Boom! Before its voice faded, a wave of rule force descended from the sky, carrying a destructive aura as it blasted toward the inner demons. Interesting. The inner demons laughed. Chang Shui erupted with endless light, slashing through the void and facing the rule force. Clang! Crack! For a moment, the void above collapsed crazily. A storm swept in all directions. The rule force and Chang Shui continued to collide, creating waves of destructive aura. At first, Chang Shui still showed signs of being defeated. But as the vitality continued to pour in, Chang Shui's power became more and more terrifying, gradually turning the situation around. It was evenly matched with the rule force. The giant python was shocked. It could actually compete with the rule force. What level of artifact was this? Only now did it realize that it seemed to have underestimated this dagger before. Too terrifying. This brat is simply a monster. Yu Huang muttered, his heart surging. Miracles had existed for countless years, but it had never been heard of. Who could compete with the rule force? Even the god of war couldn't do it. This was the first. The guardian is just so. The inner demons smiled proudly. With a clang, the castle flew out from between its eyebrows. Vitality madly poured into the castle. A magnificent godly aura burst out of his body. That was to say. At this moment, the inner demons were awakening 3 artifacts at the same time. Chang Shui, castle, armor. Putting aside the armor, the power of the castle was almost on par with Chang Shui. With the recovery of the castle, the inner demons were in high spirits. With a wave of its hand, the castle rushed into the sky and collided with the rule force. Boom! The 2 artifacts joined forces, and the divine power was difficult to resist. The rule force actually showed signs of being suppressed. Damn! Yu Huang couldn't help but curse. Not only could it compete with the rule force, but it could also suppress it. What a joke! Were these 2 divine artifacts really heaven-defying? Because the power of the rules was equivalent to the heavenly Tao. It was left behind by the creator of the miracle to suppress those who violated the rules of the miracle. And the guardian's existence is to control these rule forces. It could be said that in this miracle, the guardians and the power of the natural order were invincible. No one could defeat them. However, at this moment, the rule force was actually suppressed by Qin Feiyang's 2 divine artifacts. How inconceivable was this? Clang! Clang! The power of Chang Shui and the castle grew stronger and stronger. Even the sky was collapsing. The radiance of the 10 suns was also overshadowed. The inner demons were also full of vigor, as if they were going to pierce through the sky. Boom! A dozen breaths passed. Suddenly, a deafening sound exploded in the sky. The power of the natural order was crushed into pieces by the 2 divine artifacts. Crush the power of the natural order. Yu Huang's eyes trembled. The giant python was also stunned. It looked at the castle and Chang Shui in disbelief. This is too crazy. What kind of divine artifact could be so powerful? Whoosh! Just as the giant python was distracted, the inner demon's eyes surged with murderous intent. Chang Shui turned into a flash of light and swept towards the giant python. A strong sense of crisis swept through the heart. The giant python quivered and suddenly came back to its senses. When it saw Chang Shui, its heart surged with an indescribable fear. It hurriedly dodged. But it was still a step too late. Chang Shui, like an arrow, pierced through its giant tail. Roar! The giant python suddenly screamed in pain. The giant tail was torn apart, flesh and blood splattered everywhere, dyeing the void red. Amazing! Yu Huang's heart at this moment was like a turbulent wave, rising and falling one after another. This human kid was simply terrifying to the point of making people despair. Who else in the world could seriously injure the guardian of the miracle? This is the strength of the guardian of the miracle. It's a little disappointing. The inner demons shook its head, its blood-red eyes full of disdain. How dare you? The giant python was burning with anger, but when it looked at Chang Shui, its heart was filled with fear. Boom! All of a sudden, lightning flashed and thunder rumbled in the sky, and a strong wind blew. Dark clouds rolled in from the horizon, and in less than 3 breaths, the land fell into darkness. What's going on? The inner demons, Yu Huang, and the giant python all looked at the sky. Crack! The next moment, streaks of dazzling lightning flashed in the dark clouds, and a terrifying force of heaven descended from the sky, enveloping all directions. This is the giant python's eyes widened, and it hurriedly swooped down, carrying the dying fire dragon with it, and escaped without looking back. What is the meaning of this? The guardian of the miracle is escaping? Yu Huang looked at the back of the giant python, his face full of shock, and then turned to escape. Only the inner demons remained indifferent, standing proudly on the ground, looking at the sky. Boom! Crack! About 10 breaths passed. Suddenly, a bolt of lightning appeared, illuminating the sky. Following closely, a huge force of lightning fell from the sky, exuding a great force of heaven, firmly locking onto the inner demons. A cold light flashed in the inner demon's eyes, and Chang Shui and the ancient castle collided with the force of lightning. Clang! Clang! At this moment, the two divine artifacts had recovered nearly 1/3 of their strength. However, in the face of the force of lightning, the two divine artifacts were no match for it, and were sent flying on the spot. How is this possible? The inner demon's eyes trembled, full of shock. Haha, this is the thunder punishment. It's specially used to deal with arrogant people like you who violate the rules of the miracle. If you still don't understand, I will kindly explain it to you. You have crossed the bottom line of the creator of the miracle. For those who cross the bottom line, there is only one outcome, and that is to be destroyed. However, you are also considered powerful. Because from ancient times until now, only you have crossed the bottom line set by the creator. The giant python's gloating laughter came from afar. Thunder punishment, the inner demons murmured, looking at the giant python in the distance, suddenly looked up at the sky, and shouted, "So what if you are the creator? Today, I will try. What can you do to me?" Qi and blood surged, Chang Shui and the ancient castle paused in the void, then rushed into the sky again, killing their way into the sky. If God blocks me, I will kill God. If devil blocks me, I will kill devil. Even if you are the creator, if you provoke me, I will still kill you. The inner demons laughed again and again. That domineering aura caused Baiming Yu Huang to be tongue-tied. Boom! In the sky, thunder and lightning roared. Streaks of thunder tribulation blasted toward Chang Shui and the ancient castle. The terrifying destructive power was enough to crush mountains and rivers. However, the two divine artifacts were also extremely terrifying. No matter how the thunder tribulation blasted, there were no signs of breaking. The clanging sounds were ear-splitting and ear-splitting. Yu Huang looked at this scene and smiled bitterly. Arrogant? It seemed that this was no longer enough to describe Qin Feiyang at this moment. Arrogant? Still not enough. This human brat was simply lawless. The inner demons looked at this scene unruly. Qi and blood were endless, like a blood waterfall, connecting Chang Shui and the ancient castle. The aura of the two divine artifacts was becoming more and more shocking. Crack! But suddenly, a faint cracking sound came from his body. However, although it was faint, it was as deafening as thunder in the ears of the inner demons. Because this cracking sound came from his heart. And with this cracking sound, the qi and blood suddenly stopped. He hurriedly looked at his heart and was shocked to find that his heart had cracked. And in the center of his heart, the qi and blood pearl had shattered. What is going on? The inner demons were stunned. In the sky. Without the support of the qi and blood, Chang Shui and the ancient castle quickly dimmed and were blasted down by the power of thunder and lightning, smashing into the ground not far away from the inner demons. Boom! Two sinkholes appeared. The shock wave of the collision sent the inner demons flying on the spot, and blood spurted out of his mouth. Furthermore, even the armor had stopped recovering. Crack! And just as Chang Shui and the ancient castle fell to the ground, the power of thunder and lightning came down from the clouds, shining in the sky, and blasted toward the inner demons. Sigh. Seeing this, Yu Huang sighed deeply. Although it was a pity, he did not help the inner demons. Because he did not dare to. This was the thunder tribulation set by the creator of miracles. Even the guardian python could not avoid it, let alone a mere false god like him. He could not withstand it at all. Seeing that the thunder tribulation was about to hit the inner demons also felt the threat of death. But suddenly, the thunder tribulation stopped above the inner demons and did not fall again. Time seemed to have stopped. Yo Huang's eyes widened. What's going on? The giant python was also very surprised and bewildered. Whoosh! Right at this moment, two bright divine lights swept out from the broken ground, one on the left and one on the right, suspended above the inner demons. They were the ancient castle and Chang Shui. At this moment, the two divine artifacts shone with thousands of divine lights, illuminating the sky for thousands of miles. On top of that, wisps of godly might loomed over the place. It was many times more terrifying than when the inner demons had recovered. Seeing this, the inner demons were wild with joy. They never expected that these two divine artifacts would recover on their own. The giant python looked at the motionless power of thunder and lightning, then at the ancient castle and Chang Shui. Its huge eyes were full of surprise, and it murmured, "Is this the power of the law? Time stop." Boom! Before its voice died away. Above the sky, the power of thunder and lightning emerged, filling the whole sky like a big waterfall, roaring toward the inner demons. Clang! But at the same time, the ancient castle shook in the void, releasing an invisible force, rushing toward the sky. Suddenly, all the power of thunder and lightning, like the previous one, stopped in the void, motionless. It's really the power of the law, time stop. Impossible. How can a divine artifact have such a heaven-defying ability? I must be dreaming. The giant python shook its head, roaring in its heart. However, what happened next was an even more unacceptable scene for it. Clang! Chang Shui slashed in the air, and the void above suddenly split open a crack of more than 100 feet wide. Immediately afterward, the power of thunder and lightning poured into the crack and disappeared from everyone's sight. Boom! The next moment, there was a deafening rumble in the distance. Chapter 1539. It actually transferred the thunder tribulation over there. The giant python murmured. It suddenly turned its head and looked at the crack where the thunder tribulation had been transferred. Its huge body trembled. Yu Huang was not as exaggerated as the giant python. He was just puzzled. How did Chang Shui do it? Inner demon, who was involved in this, was also confused. It's another kind of power of law, time travel. Where did you get these two divine artifacts? Why do they both have a kind of power of law? Time stop and time travel. Even I can't compare to you. The giant python stared at the inner demons and roared in shock and anger. Time stop. Time travel. The inner demons was stunned. What was that? But from the sound of it, it sounded very awesome. Yo Huang's eyes were also full of doubts. The inner demons smiled arrogantly and looked up at the giant python. Why do you care where I got them? You just need to know that you can't escape today. The giant python's pupils contracted. You've ruined my plans several times. I've long been unhappy with you. Go to hell. The inner demon snorted. However, before its voice died away, the divine light of Chang Shui and the ancient castle directly dissipated. The inner demons was stunned and suddenly said angrily, "Bastard, you don't give me face. Do you believe that I'll throw you to the ground and stomp on you a few more times?" But the two artifacts were indifferent. The inner demons was also helpless. It lowered its posture and smiled flatteringly. Two masters, I was wrong. I apologize. Help me. I've already said it. If I can't kill it, I'll lose face in the future. If I lose face, won't you lose face too? But the two artifacts still didn't move, as if they didn't fall for it at all. Damn you, do you really think I don't dare to stomp on you? The inner demons was angry. It grabbed the two artifacts, threw them to the ground, and trampled on them crazily. Ah! Bewilderment appeared on Yuhuang's face. If it were him, he wouldn't even be able to cherish such a peerless divine item. But this bastard actually treated them like this. He really didn't know how lucky he was. The giant python was also speechless. But suddenly, murderous intent flashed in its eyes, and a wave of rule force fell like lightning, attacking the inner demons. The inner demons raised their eyebrows, grabbed Chang Shui and the castle, and threw them toward the power of rules. However, under his astonished gaze, the two divine objects actually dodged. Bastard! The inner demons were so angry that they were about to vomit blood. They cursed angrily and quickly turned around to escape. Fortunately, the flames within a radius of 10,000 miles had already been extinguished in the previous battle. Otherwise, without the protection of the castle and Chang Shui, these flames would be enough to kill him. After all, the armor had stopped recovering. His defense was greatly reduced. Boom! The rule force slammed into the ground, causing it to collapse. Although the inner demon managed to escape, it was still swept away by the shockwave and was sent flying. It was in an extremely sorry state. The two divine objects, Chang Shui and the castle, floated motionlessly in the void, as if they were watching the inner demons make a fool of themselves. The inner demons got up, glanced coldly at the giant python, then looked at Chang Shui and the castle, and roared, "Bastard, if you don't destroy that damn guardian, I'll throw you into the latrine and have a good bath." However, the two divine objects didn't care about his plan at all. "It turns out that you can't control them." The giant python laughed. The rule force continued to fall, bombarding the inner demons. The inner demons were scared. With the chi and blood pearl, he could still fight. But now, the chi and blood pearl was shattered, and the divine artifact couldn't be recovered. With his own strength, it was impossible for him to compete with the rule force. "Sirs, I'm begging you, please help me." He looked at Chang Shui and the castle, and said helplessly. The castle immediately trembled slightly, and time stood still again. The rule force floated motionlessly in the sky. "So you're amenable to coaxing but not coercion?" The inner demons was stunned, and a sly light flashed in his eyes. He leaned forward and laughed, "Masters, can you help me destroy that little bug again?" The little bug was naturally referring to the giant python. Hearing this, the giant python's expression changed, and immediately disappeared without a trace with the fire dragon. "Damn, it runs faster than a rabbit." The inner demon's face darkened, and he looked at the sky and roared, "Thunder punishment, is it? Come on, kill me if you can." However, the thunder punishment didn't seem to want to pay attention to it. The lightning disappeared, the dark clouds gradually dispersed, and 10 suns appeared. The terrifying heat shrouded again. The flames that had already been extinguished burned once again. The inner demon's expression changed, and he quickly looked at Yuhuang in the distance and shouted, "What are you still standing there for? Come here." Okay. Yuhuang came back to his senses and nodded. Then he rushed in front of the inner demons like lightning and set up a divine power barrier to isolate the flames. The inner demons also waved his hand, and Chang Shui and the castle fell into his hands. Yuhuang looked at the two divine objects and swallowed. He was terrified and asked, "Qin Feiyang, what are these divine objects? They're so scary." "Who knows?" The inner demons shut up. Bewildered, Yuhuang asked, "Aren't you their master? How can you not know? How do you know I'm their master? If I were their master, would they be disobedient? They're my masters. In the future, I have to take good care of them, or else they'll die. The inner demon snorted. Yu Huang smiled bitterly. This was the truth. The inner demons waved his hand, and the castle disappeared between his eyebrows. Chang Shui also disappeared in his energy reserve. Then he took Yu Huang to the castle. The outside also quieted down, leaving only the stone door standing alone in the sea of fire. Big demon, long time no see. In the castle, the white-eyed wolf looked at the inner demons and chuckled. Except for Wang Yuer and the Golden Wolf King, everyone knew Qin Feiyang and the inner demons very well, so they recognized them at a glance. The inner demons glanced at the white-eyed wolf and said coldly, "I'm not the real deal. You'd better not give me a nickname, or else." The white-eyed wolf's pupils shrank. He quickly said, Okay. It's my fault. How's the situation outside?" The inner demons ignored him and looked at the Golden Wolf King. "Is there a limit to the Qi and Blood Pearl?" "Limit? What do you mean?" The Golden Wolf King was stunned and looked at him suspiciously. "Just now, when I was reviving the castle and Chang Shui, the Qi and Blood Pearl suddenly shattered. Otherwise, I would have pierced through the sky." The inner demons was annoyed. "Shattered?" The Golden Wolf King was stunned. "How could that be? Then, we won't be able to revive the divine artifacts in the future, right?" The white-eyed wolf, Fatso, and the others were also in an uproar. "That's right." The inner demons nodded. The Golden Wolf King pondered for a while and looked at the inner demons. He shook his head and said, "I really don't know about this because the Qi and Blood Pearl has never shattered before." "Is it because you've overused it when reviving too many divine artifacts at once?" The inner demons frowned and said, "It seems that this is the only reason that makes sense." "What a pity." "Yeah. With the Qi and Blood Pearl, we can totally sweep the miracle realm. But now, sigh." Everyone sighed. Without the Qi and Blood Pearl, no matter how powerful the divine artifacts were, they were just decorations and could not exert their true power. Lu Jing suddenly said, "Where there are gains, there are losses. You can't force things. Where there are gains, there are losses." The white-eyed wolf was stunned. He turned to look at Lu Jing and said in confusion, "I don't understand. What did we get this time?" Lu Jing said, "Although we didn't get anything, at least we killed the fire dragon and avenged the late emperor." "Ah." The white-eyed wolf was stunned. He shook his head and said with a wry smile, "It seems that this is the only way to comfort myself. I don't believe that ancestor is dead." But at this moment, a firm voice sounded. Everyone turned to look. At some point, the inner demons and Qin Feiyang had switched back. The white-eyed wolf sighed and said, "Little Qin Zi, this is the truth. My condolences to you." Qin Feiyang glanced at the white-eyed wolf, then looked at everyone and said, "Although the fire dragon said that the third level is called hell, ancestor is not an ordinary person. I believe that he will definitely be able to turn the misfortune into a blessing." In his heart, ancestor was invincible. He firmly believed that ancestor was still alive. Everyone looked at each other. They were afraid that they would hurt Qin Feiyang, so they repeatedly agreed. But then again, what was the grudge between the late emperor and the fire dragon back then? Remember, the fire dragon said at the beginning that it used to be the guardian of the miracle realm, but now it has been reduced to a gatekeeper. Is it because of the late emperor? Fatso said suspiciously. Who would know about this kind of old history? Lu Hong rolled her eyes at him. No. Someone should know. Qin Feiyang suddenly said. Who? Everyone was surprised. Qin Feiyang said, the person who entered the miracle realm with ancestor back then. The young lady of the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion said, Are you my mother? No, I'm not your mother. After all, your mother was on the first level back then, and ancestor was on the second level. The person I'm talking about is Lu Xingchen. No, Lu Xingchen is dead. It's Mu Tianyang now. Qin Feiyang said. Lu Jing said, that's right, that's right. As long as we find Mu Tianyang, we will definitely be able to find out the truth. Although Mu Tianyang knows, he might not tell us. Besides, Mu Tianyang's whereabouts are unknown now. We can't find him at all. Lu Hong sighed. Don't worry, he will take the initiative to find me. And with Mu Qing's omniscient eye, he can also find me. Qin Feiyang smiled coldly and sat cross-legged on the ground. He took out a healing pill and closed his eyes to recuperate. Everyone looked at each other. Those who cultivated and those who refined pills. Time passed in a flash. The next morning. Qin Feiyang suddenly stood up. After fighting with the fire dragon and the giant python repeatedly, his injuries were very serious. There was no way for him to completely recover overnight. But he did not want to waste time. He looked at Yu Huang who was lying at the side and asked, "Are you leaving? Or are you following me into the stone door?" Yu Huang smiled and said, "Without the fire dragon guarding, such a good opportunity, I must go in and take a look." "Is that all?" Qin Feiyang said. "Of course not. That damn human, how dare he control me? If I don't kill him, I won't be happy." Yu Huang smiled coldly, his killing intent bone-piercing. "Then let's go." Qin Feiyang smiled. Yu Huang nodded. The power of the false god surged and condensed into a barrier. Chapter 1540. Just as Qin Feiyang entered the stone door, at the end of the canyon outside the Sea of Fire, a man in purple clothes in his 20s stood straight on the edge of a cliff. He looked at the Sea of Fire in front of him, his eyes flashing with a strange light. This person was Mu Qing. And beside Mu Qing, there was a vague figure, whose face could not be seen clearly, only a rough outline. It was a man. "Did you find him?" That vague figure asked, his voice sounded very old. "Found him. He's in this Sea of Fire. But the strange thing is, his whereabouts suddenly disappeared, and even the all-seeing eye can't see him." Mu Qing frowned. "Even the all-seeing eye can't see him." The vague figure pondered for a moment, suddenly smiled coldly, and said, "It should be some kind of boundary that blocks the all-seeing eye. Let's go in and have a look." "Yes." Mu Qing nodded. Qin Feiyang, Mu Tianyang, entered this place one after another. "What on earth is here? I'm really curious." Not long after Mu Qing entered the Sea of Fire, another young man walked out from behind a huge rock, muttered to himself, and then turned into a stream of light, plunging into the Sea of Fire. Back to Qin Feiyang. At this moment, he and Yu Huang stood on an ancient square, looking around, their eyes full of surprise. The square was about 100 feet long. The ground was paved with a kind of blue stone bricks, as flat as a mirror, and the passage of time had left many traces on it. In the center of the square, there was a stone door, exactly the same as the stone door in the Sea of Fire. Qin Feiyang and Yu Huang came out from this stone door. In other words, this was the world behind the stone door. All around, the mountains and rivers were covered in green. Those giant trees were like big umbrellas, with luxuriant branches and leaves, towering into the sky. Vines as thick as an arm wrapped around the trees, like dragons, full of a strong aura. The aura of fierce beasts was everywhere. Looking at the sky again, there were no clouds for thousands of miles, and the sun hung high in the sky. However, the sunlight was not glaring. It was very gentle. Let this world be immersed in the warm season of spring. Is this still a miracle? Yu Huang mumbled. Soft sunlight. A verdant land. The surging river. Boundless vitality, all of this made him feel like he had entered a dream. It was very unreal. Qin Feiyang also felt incredulous. This place was no different from the outside world. Suddenly, Qin Feiyang tensed up and turned his head to look at the left side of the jungle. His eyes were full of vigilance. Vigilantly, he sensed that a weak aura was approaching him. He hurriedly took Yu Huang and hid behind the stone door. He restrained his aura and closely observed the situation in the forest. Caution is the parent of safety. After all, this was a completely unfamiliar place. Anything could happen. The aura was getting closer and closer. However, that aura also seemed to be very careful. After waiting for a long time, Qin Feiyang saw a white figure walking out of the forest. It's him. Qin Feiyang was shocked and hurriedly retracted his head. He looked down at Yu Huang and transmitted his voice, "Go to the castle first. We'll talk about revenge later." "Okay." Yu Huang nodded. Qin Feiyang waved his hand and Yu Huang suddenly disappeared. At the same time, the aura was also approaching the square. Qin Feiyang looked over again and saw a young man standing at the edge of the square, scanning the surroundings. This is strange. I clearly sensed that there was movement here just now. Was it an illusion? The young man frowned and his face was full of suspicion. That's right. This person was the young man in white who used the blood-soul technique to control Qin Feiyang. Should I go out and see him? If I see him, he will definitely ask me how I passed the test of the fire dragon. How should I explain it then? The fire dragon is so powerful. There seems to be no explanation that can explain it. Qin Feiyang muttered to himself. After pondering for a while, he finally gave up on this idea and entered the castle to erase the blood-soul technique. Pfft. Outside, the young man in white's face suddenly turned pale and a stream of blood flowed from the corner of his mouth. The imprint of the blood-soul technique actually disappeared. Is Qin Dehai dead? The young man in white was bewildered. After a while, he suddenly smiled and murmured, thinking about it, how could a mere 6-star combat emperor survive under the fangs of the fire dragon? It's a pity that the purple gold dragon blood is gone. He shook his head and sighed. He turned around and soared into the sky, quickly disappearing into the vast mountains. This, inside the castle. Qin Feiyang was dumbfounded. He could actually fly. He hurriedly left the castle and tried to fly into the sky. In the end, he could really stand in the air. The oppressive force of the god's miracle also disappeared here. What kind of place is this? Qin Feiyang was getting more and more confused. You actually didn't die. But suddenly, a shocked voice sounded from the forest below. Qin Feiyang was surprised and immediately lowered his head to look. He immediately saw the young man in white standing on the branch of a big tree looking at him. What was going on? Didn't he already leave? Why was he still hiding here? As if he had seen through Qin Feiyang's doubts, the young man in white sneered, "Just now, I felt that someone was hiding nearby, so I pretended to leave." As expected, the older the ginger, the spicier it is. Qin Feiyang's heart sank. Tell me, why aren't you dead? And how did you get in under the nose of the fire dragon? The most important thing is, why did the imprint of the blood-soul technique disappear? The young man in white flew into the sky and stood in front of Qin Feiyang as he said gloomily. Qin Feiyang's eyes flickered. Speak. The young man in white shouted angrily. Qin Feiyang suddenly laughed, and said, "If I tell you that the fire dragon has already died in my hands, would you believe me?" Huh! The young man in white was stunned, and then he raised his head and laughed, his face full of disdain. Qin Feiyang said, "I knew you wouldn't believe me." The young man in white said, "I'll give you one last chance, tell me the truth now, or else," Qin Feiyang said, "or else what?" The young man in white's eyes flashed with killing intent, and with a wave of his hand, a big tree below was smashed, and he sneered, "You will end up like it, smashed into pieces." Qin Feiyang sighed helplessly, and said, "I told you the truth, but you don't believe me. What can I do? The fire dragon has really died in my hands. You're courting death." The young man in white was furious, and stepped forward without any defense, not taking Qin Feiyang seriously at all. Qin Feiyang hurriedly fled, and his expression was incomparably flustered, and he shouted, "I'm not lying to you, you can go and see if you don't believe me. You think you can kill the fire dragon with that little bit of strength of yours? Do you think I'm an idiot?" The young man in white was furious. Even he couldn't fight back in front of the fire dragon, let alone a mere combat emperor. Whoosh! His speed was extremely fast. In an instant, he caught up with Qin Feiyang, and his big hand reached out like an eagle's claw, grabbing Qin Feiyang's neck. "Hey!" However, at this moment, the panic on Qin Feiyang's face disappeared, and was replaced by a bright smile. The young man in white was stunned. What did he mean? How could he still smile? But then, a fatal sense of danger rose in his heart. With his rich battle experience, he immediately let go of Qin Feiyang, and retreated without hesitation. At the same time, he felt a pain in his lower abdomen, and blood immediately spurted out. However, he didn't stop, and continued to retreat. When he was dozens of meters away, he stopped and looked down at his lower abdomen. There was a 2-finger-wide wound on his lower abdomen. Blood flowed out. He suddenly raised his head and looked at Qin Feiyang, only to see that Qin Feiyang was holding a jade-like dagger in his hand. The tip of the dagger was still bleeding. He looked at Qin Feiyang's expression, which was full of regret. Originally, this dagger could have successfully pierced into the young man in white sea of qi. As long as his cultivation was destroyed, even if the young man in white was a pseudo-god, he could still trample on him. However, the young man in white's reaction was too fast, and he only cut the flesh on his lower abdomen. This kind of injury was like a scratch to a pseudo-god. It didn't hurt at all. "How dare you sneak attack me?" The young man in white was furious. "In this world, there is nothing that I, Qin Feiyang, don't dare to do. It's just a pity. If I could have stabbed a little more, your sea of qi would have been destroyed." Qin Feiyang shook his head. "Qin Feiyang? Isn't your name Qin Dehai?" The young man in white frowned. "You still don't understand. Qin Dehai is just a fake name." Qin Feiyang laughed. Then, he put away the Chang Shui, used the phantom steps, and pretended that he was no match for the young man in white. A fake name, the young man in white was stunned. He had been fooled by a combat emperor. This was a great humiliation. Boom! The terrifying aura of a pseudo-god erupted like a volcano. "You will die today. Even if a deity comes down, it will be useless." He suddenly raised his head and stared at Qin Feiyang's back. He took a step forward and chased after Qin Feiyang with monstrous killing intent. "I can even kill the fire dragon. Do you know how terrifying my means are? So, you better stop chasing me. Otherwise, don't blame me for being impolite." Qin Feiyang roared. His roar was loud, but there was a hint of fear in his tone. "If you are really that powerful, why are you hiding when you see me?" The young man in white sneered. He took a mysterious step forward and his speed doubled. In a few seconds, he had caught up with Qin Feiyang. Without saying a word, he raised his arm and slapped at Qin Feiyang's back. The power of a pseudo-god surged in his palm and exuded a destructive aura. "Don't force me." Qin Feiyang suddenly turned around and faced the young man in white. He retreated quickly and shouted angrily. "So what if I force you? You are just an ant. What can you do?" The young man in white was full of disdain. "Sigh. I finally want to be an honest man. Why don't you believe me?" Qin Feiyang sighed deeply, feeling very regretful. Don't put on an act. Die. The young man in white shouted angrily. His palm was like thunder and it was deafening. Die. Chapter 1541. All of a sudden. Yu Huang appeared in front of Qin Feiyang without any warning. As soon as he appeared, he used a lightning-fast attack. He raised his snake tail like a sharp arrow, flashing with a terrifying cold light. Yu Huang. The white-clothed young man's expression changed and he hurriedly retreated. But Yu Huang was also a false god. And he had been brewing in the castle for a long time. How could he give him another chance to escape? Just as the white-clothed young man retreated, the snake's tail directly pierced through his lower abdomen with a puff sound. Blood immediately spurted out like a fountain. The white-clothed young man's aura also quickly weakened. I told you not to chase me. Don't chase me. You just didn't listen. Now you've fallen into our hands. Qin Feiyang stepped forward and grabbed the white-clothed young man, sighing helplessly. Yu Huang also retracted his snake tail, blood gushing out of the wound. He sneered and said, You didn't expect me to be with Qin Feiyang, did you? What's going on? The white-clothed young man looked at the man and the snake and said angrily. It's very simple. It's me who saved Yu Huang. I also broke the blood-soul technique. I was also the one who destroyed the divine power barrier. As for the herbs in the valley, they are naturally in my hands. Qin Feiyang said with a smile. What? You destroyed the divine power barrier and saved it? How could you have the ability to do that? Could it be that the fire dragon really died in your hands? The white-clothed young man said in disbelief. Yes, the fire dragon is dead. Qin Feiyang killed it with his own hands. It's because you were too arrogant and underestimated his means that you ended up like this. Yu Huang sneered. How is this possible? The fire dragon is so powerful, who are you? The white-clothed young man roared. Who am I? Qin Feiyang smiled faintly and said, I am just a small character who has been struggling at death's door for so long. Don't take it to heart. Killing the fire dragon is just a small fry. Yu Huang was speechless. Qin Feiyang waved his hand and took back the young man's Qiankuan pouch. Then, he threw it to Yu Huang and said with a smile, Do whatever you want with it. Jiejie, Yu Huang unleashed his godly might, trapping the white-robed young man in the air. His eyes were filled with a sinister smile. No, I didn't mean to hurt you, I'm doing this for your own good, the white-clothed young man panicked and said hurriedly. For my own good? Yu Huang was slightly stunned. He raised his tail and instantly plunged it into the chest of the young man in white. He said coldly, If you don't give me an explanation today, I will make you beg for death. The white-clothed young man rolled his eyes and suddenly said, It's because of the fire dragon. Fire dragon? Yu Huang smiled playfully, and said, I really want to know, what does the fire dragon have to do with you harming me? The fire dragon has been secretly watching you for a long time, wanting to harm you. After I received the news, I was worried for you. That's why I went to look for you. I planned to heavily injure you and hide you, so that you wouldn't be killed by the fire dragon. The white-clothed young man said, as if he was telling the truth. But as long as one wasn't an idiot, one could tell that he was just making things up. Because, with the fire dragon's strength, killing Yu Huang was too easy. It didn't need to secretly watch Yu Huang and look for an opportunity. Taking a step back. Even if the fire dragon really had such intentions, the white-clothed young man could have directly told Yu Huang. Why would he need to scheme to harm it? This was a classic example of being brainless. Even if he wanted to make up something, shouldn't he make up a more reasonable excuse? When Yu Huang heard this, he said in realization, So that's the case, then I really have to thank you properly. The word thank you was said especially heavily, almost as if he was gritting his teeth. The white-clothed young man waved his hand and said with a flattering smile, "No need, we are all friends, it is only right to help each other. Are you still trying to take advantage of me? All right, I'll thank you properly now." Yu Huang raised his tail and punched the white-clothed young man's face. "Idiot." Qin Feiyang shook his head, turned around, and lowered his head to check the Qianquan bag. He had been coveting this person's Qianquan bag for a long time. He didn't know if he didn't look, but he was shocked when he saw it. There were all kinds of medicinal herbs in the Qianquan bag, and there were countless heavenly treasures like the fruit of creation. And the biggest surprise was the essence of the fourth fire, the essence of the Kuei water, the essence of the second wood, the essence of the sixth earth, and the essence of the eighth gold. And there were a lot of them. There were hundreds of them for each type. This is really a big treasure. Qin Feiyang exclaimed. If these treasures were placed outside, it would definitely cause the people of the great Qin Empire and the Forgotten Continent to fight over them. In addition to these medicinal herbs, he also found hundreds of battle arts. And they were all perfect battle arts. In short, there were too many treasures in this Qianquan bag, and it was impossible to sort them out in a short time. Might as well. He didn't want to waste this effort. He sent the Qianquan bag to the castle and let Dan Wankai tidy it up. Then he looked at the white-clothed young man, and when he saw the white-clothed young man's miserable appearance, even with his personality, he couldn't help but suck in a breath of air. The white-clothed young man, how was he still human? His entire face was lacerated, flesh and blood flying everywhere. His body was also dripping with blood. He moaned weakly, his eyes full of despair, like a pool of mud, paralyzed in the void. But even so, Yu Huang still didn't vent his anger, and was crazy and tyrannical. For a fake god to fall to such a state, it's really pitiful. Qin Feiyang shook his head, looked at Yu Huang, and said, "Aren't you afraid of torturing him to death? This emperor originally wanted to torture him to death. Besides, he is a fake god, how can he die so easily?" Yu Huang snorted coldly. Qin Feiyang was puzzled, how exactly did he scheme to harm you? Why do you hate him so much? Thinking about this emperor's heart is filled with anger. About 2 months ago, Wang Yao replied. He pretended to be seriously injured and came to this emperor's territory, asking this emperor to save him. Yu Huang said. Qin Feiyang was startled, and asked, "You really saved him? When did all the beasts become so kind?" "It's my fault for being worried. He said that as long as this emperor saves him, he will bring this emperor to an ancient site. That ancient site is filled with treasures." Seeing that he was very sincere and didn't seem to be lying, this emperor saved him. At first, this emperor didn't fully believe him. But later, during the period when he was recuperating, he had been very sincere, and this emperor slowly relaxed my vigilance. But on the morning of the third day, when this emperor wasn't paying attention, he suddenly killed this emperor. Then he used the blood-soul technique to control this emperor. Only then did I know that he took a fancy to the medicinal herbs in the valley and wanted this emperor to be his mount. Of course, this emperor wouldn't obey. He tried everything to torture this emperor and make this emperor compromise, but this emperor would rather die than submit. On a certain day, a woman barged into the house. You know this woman as well. She's that spectre queen. Because he was greedy for the beauty of the spirit empress, but he was afraid that the spirit empress would know his true face, so he created a secret room and imprisoned this emperor in it. Say, if you encountered such a thing, would you be angry? Yu Huang said gloomily. So that's how it is. Qin Feiyang suddenly understood. He lowered his head to look at the white-clothed young man and said in confusion, "With your strength, it's very easy for you to forcibly take the spirit empress. Why do you have to go through so much trouble?" Because he's a pervert. He wants the spirit empress to give herself to him. Only then will he feel satisfied. Yu Huang said in disgust. Qin Feiyang shook his head and said, a dignified fake god actually did such a despicable thing. Even I feel ashamed for you. The white-clothed young man looked at Qin Feiyang and Yu Huang with resentment. He didn't have the strength to speak now. Otherwise, he would definitely jump up and curse. Yu Huang turned her head and looked at Qin Feiyang as she asked, do you have any healing pills? Let him consume one. What do you mean? Qin Feiyang was suspicious. Yu Huang said, this emperor still wants to torture him for a while. I can't let him die so quickly. There's no need. In fact, there are many ways to torture people. Qin Feiyang's eyes flashed. What way? Yu Huang asked. Didn't he want you to be his mount? Why don't you give him a taste of his own medicine? You have to know that for humans, being captured by beasts and becoming their pet is thousands or tens of thousands of times more painful than torture. Qin Feiyang laughed. Bastard, you actually helped a beast. Are you still human? When the white-clothed young man heard this, he immediately gathered all the strength in his body and roared at Qin Feiyang. Sometimes, beasts are more trustworthy than humans. Qin Feiyang said lightly. The white-clothed young man laughed angrily, how can you say such words? You should be a beast. You're not a human. You can still shout. It seems that the injury isn't serious enough. Qin Feiyang took a step forward and slapped the white-clothed young man's face fiercely. Blood splattered everywhere. Seeing that you've been tortured so badly by Yu Huang, I didn't intend to settle the score between you and me. But your mouth is really annoying. I won't feel good if I don't slap you. Qin Feiyang slapped him again. Flesh and blood splattered everywhere. The white-clothed young man was in heart-wrenching pain, but he could only endure it silently. When you used the blood-soul technique to control me, weren't you very arrogant? Why are you motionless like a dead pig now? Come, come, come. I'll give you a chance. Fight with me fair and square. If you can touch even a finger of mine, I'll be your grandson. Qin Feiyang sneered. His eyes were contemptuous to the extreme. The white-clothed young man was so angry that he spat out a mouthful of blood. One's cultivation was still intact while the other's cultivation was gone. Could this be called fair and square? It was obvious that he was bullying him. If he had the ability, why not wait until his sea of qi was restored? Didn't you hear Qin Feiyang's words? Get up. Where's your arrogance? Look at you, even a dog is better than you. No, no. Using a dog as an analogy is an insult to dogs. Seeing that the white-clothed young man didn't speak, Yu Huang gave him another beating. This time, he was completely speechless. Chapter 1542. Yu Huang seemed to have vented his anger. He looked at Qin Feiyang and said, your suggestion just now is very good. I happen to want to have a human pet. Let's do as you say. Qin Feiyang was secretly delighted when he heard this. He was not afraid that Yu Huang would not agree. At present, their small team lacked a false god. And Yu Huang just happened to fill this gap. In fact, Qin Feiyang also thought of using the slave seal to control Yu Huang when he was not paying attention. But when he learned from Yu Huang that the young man in white controlled him, Qin Feiyang decisively dismissed this idea. This Yu Huang was a person who could be persuaded by reason but not cowed by force. If you want to force it, it would rather die than submit. Therefore, if he wanted to keep Yu Huang by his side, he had to find a gentler way. The young man in white was the key to this method. First of all, how did the young man in white become a human pet? Naturally, he had to use a contract to control him. For example, the blood-soul technique and the slave seal. Yu Huang should not have such a contract. The person who would control the young man in white in the end would be Qin Feiyang. After controlling the young man in white would have to follow him. If Yu Huang wanted the young man in white to become his human pet, he would have to stay by his side. As for the young man in white, although his character was not good and his mentality was a little perverted, it was undeniable that his strength was not bad. After taking him under his command and restricting him a little, he would definitely be a great help by his side. Of course, Qin Wentian had no way to ascertain if Yu Huang had grasped the blood-spirit art or not. He had to make things clear first. Thinking of this, Qin Feiyang looked up at Yu Huang and asked, "Do you have a way to control him? After all, he will not be willing to be your human pet." "No." Yu Huang shook his head. Qin Feiyang secretly rejoiced. Yu Huang did not have a way to control the young man in white. Then, he could proceed according to his plan. In the meantime, hearing Yu Huang's words, the white-clothed young man's eyes were filled with mockery. She didn't even have a way to control him, yet she wanted him to be her pet. What a joke. "I have an idea." But suddenly, Qin Feiyang's voice sounded. The young man in white looked at Qin Feiyang in surprise. Yu Huang also looked at him suspiciously and asked, "What method?" "The enslavement seal that I have mastered is a god-level secret technique. It is even more powerful than the blood-soul technique. Not only can I control his soul, I can also peek into his inner thoughts. Furthermore, in this world, there are only 2 people capable of removing it." Qin Feiyang smiled. "Which 2 people?" Yu Huang asked. Qin Feiyang said, "One of them is naturally me. The other one is currently at the 2nd level of the miracle. The so-called other one was naturally the mysterious madam." Yu Huang's pupils shrank. Those who could enter the 2nd level must be false gods or war gods. Qin Feiyang said again, "This person has lost his cultivation. It's easy for me to control him, but what?" Yu Huang raised his eyebrows. Qin Feiyang was about to say something, but suddenly retracted his words and lowered his head. "What's wrong? Is there a problem?" Yu Huang was suspicious. Qin Feiyang gritted his teeth and looked up at Yu Huang, saying, "I won't play any tricks. To tell you the truth, I actually want you to stay and help me. As the saying goes, treat people with sincerity and do things with sincerity. Only sincerity can exchange for trust. Especially for a false god like Yu Huang, playing tricks would only arouse the other party's disgust." "Ah!" Yu Huang was stunned. The scene instantly fell into a dead silence. Qin Feiyang was extremely nervous. He didn't know if this sudden decision was right or wrong. A moment later, Yu Huang finally broke the silence and said, "This emperor wants to hear your truest thoughts. Do you want this emperor to stay and help you, or do you want this emperor to follow you forever?" "Help me. Of course, if you can stay forever, that would be the best." Qin Feiyang said. Yu Huang said, "Be your servant." "No, no, no. For me, whether it's a beast or a human, there will never be the word servant, only friends and partners. I believe this. You also saw it in the castle." Qin Feiyang quickly waved his hand. Yu Huang went silent again. Qin Feiyang secretly breathed a sigh of relief. Yu Huang didn't turn hostile on the spot, indicating that he still had a good impression of him. With a good impression, there was a chance. Time passed breath by breath. Under Qin Feiyang's waiting, Yu Huang's eyes flashed. He looked at Qin Feiyang and said, "This emperor has never seen a human like you. You're real and not pretentious." Qin Feiyang smiled. "Just for this emperor appreciates you very much." "Okay. This emperor will agree to stay and help you. It's also to repay your life-saving grace." Yu Huang said. "Welcome to this big family." Qin Feiyang said with joy. "Don't be so happy. This emperor just said to stay temporarily. I didn't say to follow you forever." Yu Huang said. Qin Feiyang smiled and said, "As long as you can stay, I have the confidence to let you stay forever." "So confident?" Yu Huang was surprised. "And?" Qin Feiyang nodded. Yu Huang mockingly spoke, "In that case, this empress wants to wait and see what solution you have." Qin Feiyang smiled. His hands formed a seal. A seal of slavery appeared and rushed into the head of the young man in white like lightning. The young man in white's face was suddenly distorted by the pain, and he wailed silently. Soon, the seal of slavery was completed. Qin Feiyang took out spiritual sea pills and healing pills and stuffed them into the young man in white's mouth. "Are you sure this seal of slavery can completely control him?" Yu Huang asked. A trace of worry could be seen on her face. It knew the means of a false god the best. If it was not careful, it would fall into eternal damnation. Especially a sinister and despicable person like the young man in white. It was impossible to guarantee that he would do something crazy that would make people desperate. "Don't worry. As long as he dares to have the slightest bad intention, I will immediately erase his soul so that he won't even have the chance to reincarnate." Qin Feiyang sneered. Seeing that Qin Feiyang was so confident, Yu Huang did not say anything more. Qin Feiyang glanced at the young man in white, then looked at Yu Huang and said, "Looking at his injuries, he won't be able to recover in a short period of time. Why don't you guys go to the castle first, and I'll walk around alone to understand the situation." "All right." Yu Huang nodded. After sending Yu Huang and the young man in white to the castle, Qin Feiyang glanced at the surrounding forest, then turned into a stream of light and swooped down, disappearing into the forest. Soon, in the forest, he found an extremely precious medicinal herb, the Xianyang grass, and it was 10,000 years old. When he encountered such a medicinal herb, he naturally would not let it go and uprooted it. Roar! Very soon, he saw another ferocious beast. It was a violent ape. Its body was more than 10 meters tall. It stood on the peak of a huge mountain, pounding its chest and stamping its feet, roaring continuously. And its cultivation had reached the peak of the 9-star War Emperor realm. After seeing the violent ape, Qin Feiyang became especially careful. After that, he found a lot of medicinal herbs. His entire body was 10,000 years old. For example, the scarlet fire glass tree, blood ginseng, 9 suns flower, profoundine grass, and so on. But compared to these medicinal herbs, the beasts here surprised him even more. The lowest cultivation level of the beasts he encountered was a 9-star War Emperor, and there were countless peak realm existences. This was too terrifying. What exactly was this place? It was simply a forbidden zone. Who would dare to set foot in it? Moreover, this mountain range was very wide. After half a day, he still couldn't see the end. As for people, there was no need to talk about them. He didn't even see a shadow. Finally, he returned to the square where the stone door was. And suddenly, Qin Feiyang found a few footprints on the right side of the square. Wait. I don't think I've been to that place before. Why would there be footprints? Could it be that someone has been here? Qin Feiyang was surprised and quickly landed beside the footprints. After comparing them, they were indeed not his footprints. He waved his hand again, and the young man in white appeared beside him. After half a day of recuperation, the young man in white's qi had already recovered. The external injuries on his body had also almost recovered. But his expression was still very weak. After some comparison, he was surprised to find that these footprints did not belong to the young man in white. There really is someone. Qin Feiyang suddenly stood up and scanned the surrounding forest, his eyes full of vigilance. Chapter 1543. However, after observing for a while, Qin Feiyang did not hear anything in the jungle. He frowned and called out the white-eyed wolf, saying, "Smell here." Is there any smell? The white-eyed wolf closed its eyes, sniffed, and frowned. Then it carefully identified for a while, then suddenly opened its eyes and looked at Qin Feiyang, saying, "There is the smell of Mu Qing and Zhuge Mingyang here." "What? Zhuge Mingyang is not dead yet?" Qin Feiyang's body shook, and he looked at the white-eyed wolf in surprise. The white-eyed wolf said, "I don't know if he is dead or not, but there is indeed his smell." "How is this possible?" "At that time, I burned all his flesh and blood to ashes. How can he come back to life like that?" Qin Feiyang was overwhelmed with emotions, and he couldn't believe it. Can a person who has been burned to ashes come back to life? You must be kidding. The young man in white muttered in his heart. I am not kidding with you. At that time, in the Golden Wolf King's territory, I did burn him to ashes. Because I am afraid that such an accident will happen again. Qin Feiyang said in a deep voice. Can you really peek into my thoughts? The young man in white was stunned. He originally thought that Qin Feiyang was just scaring him, but he didn't expect it to be true. This slave seal was too heaven-defying. Qin Feiyang looked at the young man in white and said, "So you'd better not play any tricks." "I dare not, I dare not." The young man in white waved his hand repeatedly, his face full of fear. Peeking into his thoughts, in the future in front of Qin Feiyang, wouldn't it be equivalent to taking off his clothes and not being able to hide any secrets? "Do you have any secrets?" Qin Feiyang said. "No, no." The young man in white shook his head. "No, what are you afraid of?" Qin Feiyang glanced at him coldly, then looked down at the white-eyed wolf and asked, "Did Zhuge Mingyang and Mu Qing come in together?" White-eyed wolf shook his head and said, "Zhuge Mingyang's scent is fainter than Mu Qing's. They probably came in one after the other." Qin Feiyang asked, "Can you tell how long they've been here?" The white-eyed wolf said, "I can only give a rough estimate, about 2 hours ago." "How did they get in?" Qin Feiyang frowned. Although Huolong had been killed, the temperature of the Sea of Flames was enough to stop anyone below the semi-divinity realm from proceeding any further. With Mu Tianyang's help, it was easier for Mu Qing to explain. But how could Zhuge Mingyang be able to come in? Could it be? Qin Feiyang's eyes trembled. White-eyed wolf looked at Qin Feiyang and asked, "What do you think?" Qin Feiyang said, "Every time Zhuge Mingyang is killed, his cultivation will soar. Could it be that he has broken through to the false god realm this time? How is that possible? Even a false god has to comprehend the profound meaning of becoming a god." White-eyed wolf said. "Not necessarily. There are countless creatures in the vast thousand worlds. There may not be only one way of cultivation. Furthermore, his resurrection from the dead is very strange to begin with." Qin Feiyang said. White-eyed wolf nodded and seemed to make some sense. He said, "No matter what, you must be careful in the future. These two people must have bad intentions." The young man in white asked curiously, "Who are Mu Qing and Zhuge Mingyang? Why are you so nervous?" One had to know. The man in front of him was a ruthless character who could even kill the fire dragon. How terrifying would his methods be if even he was afraid of him? White-eyed wolf snorted coldly, "Facing a person who can know your position at any time and an unkillable person, if it were you, would you be nervous?" "Definitely nervous." The young man in white said. "That's it." Wolf King rolled his eyes at him. Qin Feiyang looked at the young man in white and asked, "By the way, what's your name?" The young man in white said, "Willow Tree." Qin Feiyang said, "Tell me the situation here." "Okay." The young man in white nodded, glancing at the surrounding mountains, and said, "This place is called the Devil's Land. Except for false gods, no one dares to set foot here." "The Devil's Land," Qin Feiyang murmured. The degree of danger of this place was indeed worthy of this name. The Devil's Land occupies millions of miles of land, and our current location is in the center of the Devil's Land. Here, there are countless treasures and herbs, but there are also many beasts. Especially in this central area, the cultivation of the beasts are generally at the 9-star War Emperor level. There are even 10 false god level beasts lurking in this mountain range. Willow Tree said. 10. Qin Feiyang and White-Eyed Wolf looked at each other. Since there are countless herbs and false god level beasts here, why did you run out to find trouble with Yu Huang? Isn't this giving up what's close at hand? White-Eyed Wolf frowned. There are 2 reasons. First, I want to go out and take a look. Second, the 10 false god level beasts here are very united. I don't dare to provoke them at all. The young man in white smiled bitterly. Want to go out and take a look? White-Eyed Wolf was suspicious. Do you know? There are not only beasts here, but also humans. Let's put it another way. This is a human world, but it's the human world inside the miracle. It's not connected to the outside world. The young man in white said. There are indeed natives here. Qin Feiyang said. No. The people here are not natives. And there are no natives in the miracle. The young man in white shook his head. What do you mean? Qin Feiyang was suspicious. The young man in white said, it means that the people here used to come from the outside world. This, Qin Feiyang was stunned. He never expected to get such an answer. Where did they come from? The Forgotten Continent or the Great Qin Empire? White-Eyed Wolf asked. There are people from both continents, but there are no people from the Great Qin Empire here. When the miracle opened last time, there were a few people from the Great Qin Empire who came in, but in the end, the people from the Heavenly Sun Empire heard the news and rushed over, killing them without saying a word. The young man in white said. The Heavenly Sun Empire? Qin Feiyang and White-Eyed Wolf looked at each other and said in surprise, are you really from the Heavenly Sun Empire? Of course. The people from the Heavenly Sun Empire rule here, and their foundation is quite terrifying. The young man in white nodded. White-Eyed Wolf said in surprise, Little Qin Z, what's going on? Why does the Heavenly Sun Empire exist in the miracle? How would I know? Qin Feiyang looked at it helplessly and said to the young man in white, hurry up and tell us. No one knows how long the miracle has existed. And every time the miracle opens, a large number of people rush in one after another. But many of these people are actually not dead. After the miracle closes, the rule power of the miracle will send all the people who are still alive here. Everyone multiplies here, generation after generation, and finally created a human world. Currently, according to statistics, there are 500 to 600 million people here. The young man in white said. So many. Qin Feiyang was dumbfounded. Yes. The young man in white nodded. So that's how it is. The Great Qin Empire has only been established for 10,000 years, so there are no people from the Great Qin Empire here. As for those who were killed by the Heavenly Sun Empire, they should have come in together with the ancestors. And according to ancient records, the Heavenly Sun Empire has existed for 100,000 years. So there are many people from the Heavenly Sun Empire here. Qin Feiyang said in realization. White-Eyed Wolf looked at the young man in white and asked, then which continent are you from? The Forgotten Continent. The young man in white said. The Forgotten Continent? You're not from the main tower, are you? Qin Feiyang was surprised. The main tower? No, no, no. When I entered the miracle, the main tower didn't exist on the Forgotten Continent. At that time, the faction that controlled the Forgotten Continent was called the Nether Hall, and I was a member of the Nether Hall. Later, when people from the main tower came here, I found out that the Nether Hall had been replaced by the main tower. The young man in white sighed. Even older than the main tower? This guy is a living fossil. Qin Feiyang asked in disbelief, are there people from the main tower here? Yes. The young man in white nodded. Then why didn't the Nether Hall look for trouble with them? After all, it was the main tower that replaced the Nether Hall back then. Qin Feiyang said. Although times have changed, and no faction can unify a continent for a long time, there will still be hatred in their hearts. Back then, the Nether Hall chased after the first batch of people from the main tower who came here. But the people from the main tower were very smart. After understanding the situation here, they joined a super faction. Even the Nether Hall and the Heavenly Sun Empire don't dare to provoke this faction. The young man in white said. What faction is so strong? Qin Feiyang was surprised. The Vanga League. The young man in white said word by word. His eyes were filled with fear. The white-eyed wolf asked suspiciously, what's the Vanga League? The Vanga League has existed for even longer than the Nether Hall and the Heavenly Sun Empire. There are very few people in it, but every one of them was once in existence that dominated a region. Other than the Vanga League, there's another super faction, the Fengtian Palace. The foundations of these two factions are almost the same. As for the specific situation, it's very complicated. I don't think I'll be able to explain it all in 3 days and 3 nights. You'll slowly understand it when you've been here for a long time. The young man in white said. Chapter 1544. After pondering for a while, Qin Feiyang looked at the willow tree and asked suspiciously, since everyone is still alive, why don't you think of a way to leave the miracle? There is no way to leave. The young man in white shook his head. Why can't we leave? Qin Feiyang was puzzled. The young man in white looked at the vast land and sighed, the reason lies in this place. Can you tell us quickly? Don't keep us in suspense. The white-eyed wolf urged. This is a small world created by the creator of the miracle. The purpose is to give people like us who can't leave the miracle in time a place to live. But at the same time, this place also contains a terrifying power. The young man in white said in a deep voice. What power? The white-eyed wolf asked. We call it the power of the devil. This power of the devil will gradually integrate into our body and even our soul. When the power of the devil completely permeates our body and mind, we will be trapped here forever. The young man in white said worriedly. The power of the devil, Qin Feiyang murmured, his eyes full of horror. The white-eyed wolf looked at the stone gate below and frowned. You mean, anyone who enters this place will never be able to leave through this stone gate again? Yes. In addition to the restriction of the power of the devil, there used to be a fire dragon guarding the stone gate. Once someone was found to leave, he would immediately kill them. Although the fire dragon has been killed by you, I believe that a new guardian will appear soon. The young man in white said. Qin Feiyang asked, what will happen if you force your way out of the miracle? If you force your way out of the miracle, there is no need for the guardian of the miracle to do anything. The power of the devil that has integrated into your body will tear you to pieces. Some people have tried before, but without exception, they all ended up with their souls destroyed. The young man in white said. Qin Feiyang took a deep breath. He didn't expect the consequences to be so terrifying. But suddenly, he frowned and looked at the young man in white unkindly. That's not right. Since you are trapped here and can't get out, how did you get out? Could it be that the Abyss Devil's power hasn't fused with you yet? It's my fault for not making things clear. After fusing with the power of demons, although I can't leave the divine ruin, I can leave this place. But time is limited. And the premise is that you can successfully sneak out from under the fire dragon's nose. The white-clothed young man said. Limited time. Qin Feiyang frowned. Yes. Those who are bound by the power of demons can only stay outside for 3 months at most. Once the 3 months are up, if you don't return here, you'll still be killed by the power of the demons. The white-clothed young man said. Little Qin Zi, what should we do now? That demonic power must have already entered our bodies. If we had known, we wouldn't have come in. The white-eyed wolf howled. Calm down. Qin Feiyang glared at it and said, didn't you hear what the willow tree said? The demon's power slowly fuses into our bodies, not all at once. Yes. The process of fusing with the power of demons will take half a year. In other words, you have to leave this godforsaken place within half a year. Otherwise, you'll be trapped here forever like me, unable to return to the great Qin Empire. The white-clothed young man said. Hearing this, the white-eyed wolf looked at Qin Feiyang and said, then let's leave now. Leaving now is the best and wisest choice. Because the fire dragon is dead, there's no one guarding outside now. And once a new guardian is sent, even if the demonic power hasn't fused with you, the guardian won't let you leave. The white-clothed young man said. Qin Feiyang said indifferently, even if you leave now, I won't remove your slave seal. I'm doing this for your own good. Why do you have to do this? The white-clothed young man said angrily. You don't have to care what I do. I know what I'm doing. You just need to tell me what you know truthfully. Qin Feiyang said. Okay. I've said too much. The white-clothed young man nodded and said unwillingly, I'm not scaring you. Although this is a small world, in our eyes, it's a cage. You'd better think carefully. A cage, huh? Qin Feiyang muttered as he scanned the surrounding space. His eyes flickered. You really won't cry until you're in the coffin. The white-clothed young man sneered. Qin Feiyang glanced at the willow tree and said coldly, I don't want to hear such words again. The white-clothed young man felt wronged. However, he only muttered in his heart, what does it matter? Qin Feiyang looked away and said indifferently, did you already know my identity? Yes. The white-clothed young man nodded. Is it because of the purple gold dragon blood? Qin Feiyang said. Yes. Although your ancestor is a rising star and has never been here before, everyone here knows the name of the Qin Emperor. When I saw that you have the purple gold dragon blood, I guessed that you must be the descendant of the Qin Emperor. The white-clothed young man said. Qin Feiyang said, my ancestor has never been here before. This place is also isolated from the world. How do you know? The white-clothed young man said, the last time the miracle opened, people from the main pagoda and the Tianyang Empire came in. They said it. So it's like that. Qin Feiyang nodded in realization. The last time the miracle opened was 10,000 years ago. At that time, his ancestor had already risen and was famous. In the face of such a talented person, it was normal for people from the main pagoda and the Tianyang Empire to come here. However, he was sure that Willow Tree was hiding something from him. He looked at the white-clothed young man and said, since you already knew my identity, why didn't you say it from the beginning? What is your purpose? And that so-called research, it should be just a cover. No. The research is real. I want to try and see if I can use the purple gold dragon blood to transform Yu Huang into a purple gold divine dragon. As for not exposing your identity, the white-clothed young man fell silent as his face was full of panic. Qin Feiyang's eyes flashed coldly and said, it's because of the people from the Tianyang Empire. How do you know? The white-clothed young man looked at Qin Feiyang in surprise, but then he smiled bitterly. How could he forget about the slave seal? That's right. It's because of the people from the Tianyang Empire. Back then, the people from the Tianyang Empire spread the word. In the future, every time the miracle opens, as long as you meet people from the great Qin Empire, as long as you bring them to them, you will receive a generous reward. The white-clothed young man said. So you're going to bring me to receive the reward? That's true. Anyone from the great Qin Empire can receive a generous reward. I, who has the purple gold dragon blood, must be worth more. Qin Feiyang sneered. It's not like that. I'm a false god and an elder of the Nether Pavilion. Why would I care about their reward? Please don't insult me again. The white-clothed young man said angrily. An elder of the Nether Pavilion? Qin Feiyang was stunned. He didn't expect this person to have such a powerful background. He said, then tell me, what do you want to do to me? I don't know either. However, since you have the purple gold dragon blood, you must be of great use to the Nether Pavilion. So, I'm going to bring you back and hand you over to the pavilion master. The white-clothed young man said. Thank you for your praise. However, I'm afraid you didn't expect that you would go for wool and come home shorn. Qin Feiyang sneered. I didn't expect it. The white-clothed young man smiled bitterly. The white-eyed wolf asked, Little Qin Zi, do you think Mu Tianyang knows that there are people from the Tianyang Empire here? This, Qin Feiyang hesitated. It seemed like there was no way to be sure. The white-clothed young man suddenly said, Is the Mu Tianyang you're talking about the last emperor of the Tianyang Empire? The last emperor? Qin Feiyang and the white-eyed wolf were stunned. However, they understood after thinking about it. The Tianyang Empire was destroyed by Mu Tianyang. It wouldn't be an exaggeration to say that he was the last emperor. Yes. Qin Feiyang nodded and asked, You know him too? So it's really him. I thought it was a coincidence that we have the same name. I've heard of this Mu Tianyang. He's a very cruel ruler, but I've never been here before. I'm sure. The white-clothed young man said. You haven't been here before. Does that mean you don't know? In that case, little Qin Zi, can we have a good plan? The white-eyed wolf rolled his eyes and looked at Qin Feiyang with a sneaky smile. A plan? Qin Feiyang was taken aback. This guy must have thought of some wicked idea to torture Mu Tianyang again. He teased, who was the one who wanted to leave just now? The white-eyed wolf chuckled and said, Well, I just found something fun. I got excited all of a sudden. Qin Feiyang said, In other words, you won't leave? Chapter 1545. Qin Feiyang rolled his eyes at it and said, Then tell me, how do we do it? Mu Tianyang doesn't know, right? We'll use this point to let Mu Tianyang kill them all. Then we'll tell Mu Tianyang that these are all people of his Tianyang Empire, and he'll definitely go crazy. Tell me, isn't this fun? The white-eyed wolf laughed sinisterly. Ruthless enough. The white-clothed youth at the side listened with trepidation and a chill ran down his spine. Using Mu Tianyang to deal with the people of the Tianyang Empire, what could be more ruthless than this? After Qin Feiyang heard this, he pondered for a moment and nodded with a smile, This is indeed a bit fun. Finished. With a wave of his hand, Yu Huang appeared. As soon as Yu Huang appeared, he looked at the willow tree arrogantly and shouted, Human pet, kneel on the ground for this emperor. The white-clothed youth immediately frowned. What? You don't even listen to your master's words, are you looking for death? Yu Huang said angrily. The white-clothed youth looked at Qin Feiyang, his eyes full of pleading. The one who enslaved him was Qin Feiyang, so it still depended on Qin Feiyang's intentions. Don't forget your current identity. Of course. You also have a chance to get rid of the fate of being a human pet, but it depends on your performance. Qin Feiyang said lightly. The white-clothed youth immediately lowered his head powerlessly. Damn it, it seems like you can't hear this emperor's words. Seeing that he didn't lie down, Yu Huang couldn't help but become angry. He raised his tail and whipped the white-clothed youth's back. With a snap, the clothes were torn and the flesh was torn. That terrifying force directly slammed him to the ground. Yu Huang smiled proudly and coiled around the head of the young man in white. He said, If you're a pet, you should be aware that you're being pampered. If you don't listen to me, it won't be as simple as whipping you. The white-robed young man's face turned green and red. His expression was extremely ugly, but he could only grit his teeth and swallow this humiliation. Yu Huang looked up at Qin Feiyang and asked, "Why did you call me out?" Qin Feiyang said, "Mu Qing and Mu Tianyang shouldn't have left the Devil's Land yet. You and Willow Tree should make some noise, the bigger the better, and lure them over." "No problem." Yu Huang nodded and shouted, "Human pet, didn't you hear? Do you want this emperor to teach you what to do?" "No need, no need," the young man in white said. Then, he flew up into the sky with Yu Huang. Yu Huang leaped up and floated in front of the white-robed young man. He said, "You can defend, but you're not allowed to fight back." The white-robed young man was stunned and immediately burned with anger. He roared, "Then wouldn't I be a punching bag for you to hit? Don't go too far. So what if this emperor bullies you?" Yu Huang sneered. "If you have the ability, don't threaten me with the slave seal. Let's have a fair and square fight." The white-robed young man suppressed his anger and shouted, "Fair and square? When you schemed against this emperor, why didn't I see you being fair and square? A despicable person like you is not worthy of fighting this emperor fair and square, do you understand?" Yu Huang said disdainfully. The white-robed young man was filled with grief and indignation. His eyes were bloodshot. "Cut the crap. Just stand there and take the beating. When this emperor is satisfied, I might let you go." Beiming Yu Huang coldly laughed as her body expanded in size. In an instant, a giant python that was thousands of feet long appeared out of thin air, like a majestic mountain ridge, occupying half of the sky above. The terrifying beast could topple the mountains and overturn the seas. Seeing Yu Huang reveal his true body, the white-robed young man's body and mind tightened. He hurriedly activated the power of the false god and set up a defensive barrier. He did not dare to be careless. Because he knew that with Yu Huang's hatred for him, he would not show any mercy. "Human pet, this emperor is coming." Yu Huang laughed uproariously. She raised her scaly tail and smashed it towards the defensive barrier. Boom! Immediately, a deafening sound rang out in the sky and spread in all directions. Following closely, a destructive wave of air with this place as the center rolled out in all directions. The void distorted and mountains collapsed. Countless beasts fled for their lives. Qin Feiyang also took the white-eyed wolf and hid in the castle. Crack! At the same time, the white-robed young man's defensive barrier was instantly shattered. Yu Huang's giant tail smashed into his chest. He really did not hold back at all. Puff! The white-robed young man immediately spat out a mouthful of blood and smashed into the ground below like a meteorite. With a loud bang, a loud sound rang out. This commotion is truly enormous. The white-eyed wolf was speechless. Qin Feiyang said, "Yu Huang is venting." The white-eyed wolf said, "Aren't you afraid that it will really destroy the willow tree?" "It won't. I think it still has some sense of propriety." Qin Feiyang smiled. To be honest, he really did not want to kill the willow tree now. The reason was because of the willow tree's identity. The willow tree was an elder of the Nether Hall. He definitely knew the layout and overall strength of the Heavenly Sun Empire. With him by his side, it would save a lot of trouble. Wait! Suddenly, Qin Feiyang was stunned. Since it was possible to fly here, did that mean it was possible to control the castle? He hurriedly tried it. It really was possible. This was much more convenient. Outside, Yu Huang viciously smashed the willow tree a few more times, shattering all the bones in its body. Seeing how fierce it was, Qin Feiyang was really afraid that it would accidentally kill the willow tree. He hurriedly went out to stop it. That's enough. Only then did Yu Huang stop. She floated in the air and stared down at Lu Mu, who was on the verge of death. Her eyes were filled with delight. Qin Feiyang flew over and looked at the willow tree's injuries. He was speechless. How can he be your human pet after being tortured like this? Yu Huang was stunned and nodded. Yes, I was careless. I will be gentler next time. There's a next time. When the willow tree heard this, it was so angry that it spat out a mouthful of blood and fainted on the spot. Qin Feiyang's expression changed. He hurriedly squatted down to check on the situation. Seeing that it was only unconscious, he heaved a sigh of relief. Next, he took out a healing pill, a bone-replenishing pill, and a regeneration pill and stuffed them into the willow tree's mouth. Yu Huang went over and asked, "He's not dead, right?" Qin Feiyang said helplessly, "If you continue like this, even if he isn't beaten to death by you, he will be angered to death by you. He deserves it. He asked for it." Yu Huang snorted coldly. Yes, yes, yes. I didn't say that he shouldn't be beaten. But next time, be gentler. This person is still useful for now. Qin Feiyang said. Yu Huang pursed his lips, and said, "All right, for your sake, I'll leave him a way out." Qin Feiyang smiled, waved his hand, and sent the willow tree to the castle. Then, he whispered a few words to Yu Huang. When Yu Huang heard this, it immediately said disdainfully, "Isn't it just 3 strands of divine sense? What are you afraid of? Just leave it to this emperor." "Thank you," Qin Feiyang said gratefully. Now that there was no way to revive the holy artifact, he was still a little afraid of Mu Tianyang's divine sense. Of course, Mu Tianyang shouldn't dare to make a move either. After all, the giant python had told him not to use his divine sense again. However, everything had an accident. What if Mu Tianyang was driven to desperation? Therefore, he had to warn Yu Huang and let it be prepared. While Yu Huang was beating up the willow tree, in the south of the Devil's Land, there was a huge lake thousands of miles away. The lake water was clear and rippling. By the lake, the grass and trees were green and medicinal herbs were everywhere. These medicinal herbs all had tiger-shaped spirit inscriptions. I didn't expect that there would be such a paradise in this miracle. A young man muttered as he buried his head and picked those medicinal herbs. His eyes were full of joy. This person was Mu Qing. Suddenly, a rumbling sound rolled over. He quickly stood up and looked in the direction of the rumbling sound, his eyes full of surprise. That seemed to be the direction of the stone gate. Swish! A vague outline appeared beside Mu Qing and said in surprise, "It's divine power, could it be Qin Feiyang?" This outline was formed by Mu Tianyang's divine sense. Qin Feiyang. Mu Qing was taken aback. Mu Tianyang looked at Mu Qing and said, "You didn't spy on Qin Feiyang's position?" This, Mu Qing looked flustered. Mu Tianyang flew into a rage and shouted, "Before entering the spatial divine object, didn't I repeatedly warn you to pay attention to his movements at all times? Did you take my words as wind passing by your ears? Master, please calm down. Although the heavenly eye is a battle soul, it needs my eyes to open. After using it for a long time, my eyes will be tired. When we were outside, when we were tracking Qin Feiyang, our eyes had already begun to feel uncomfortable. So after you went to the spatial divine item and confirmed Qin Feiyang's position, you closed the heavenly eye and let your eyes rest. At the same time, you picked some medicinal herbs." Mu Qing said in fear. "So that's how it is." Mu Tianyang came to a realization and said, "I was wrong about you, sorry." If these words were to be heard by his former subjects, their jaws would definitely fall off. That monarch who had always been domineering and arbitrary would actually apologize to someone. However, from this point, it showed how much he valued Mu Qing. "Thank you for your understanding, master. I'll check his position right away." Mu Qing wiped his cold sweat and immediately opened the heavenly eye to check Qin Feiyang's position. A moment later, he looked at Mu Tianyang and said, "Qin Feiyang is indeed over there. Are you sure?" Mu Tianyang said. I'm sure. I don't know why, but when I entered here, the heavenly eye could accurately find his position. Mu Qing nodded. You can accurately find his position. Could it be that this place is already out of the scope of the miracle? Mu Tianyang was suspicious. Mu Qing asked, then now, should we go and find him, or? Mu Tianyang said, it's not appropriate to confront him head-on now, but we can go and take a look, but it's best not to let him discover our whereabouts. I'm afraid that's very difficult to do. Let's not talk about Qin Feiyang first. Let's talk about the white-eyed wolf. Its sense of smell is as sensitive as a dog's nose. Mu Qing frowned, his face full of annoyance. No. It's very simple. Even if we stand in front of him now, he won't be able to discover us. Because here, the spatial divine item can also be controlled. Mu Tianyang said with a smile. Mu Qing was overjoyed. Chapter 1546. Let's talk about Qin Feiyang. He had left the square and found a hidden cave nearby. He sat cross-legged inside and closed his eyes to recuperate. That's right. He was recuperating. But at this moment, he was covered with wounds, his clothes were ragged, and his breath was extremely weak. But his injuries were not caused by the sneak attack of ferocious beasts, but by himself. He did this to lure Mu Tianyang out. Because what Mu Tianyang thought of, he also thought of. The space divine object could be controlled here. If he didn't pretend to be weak, even if Mu Tianyang came, he would definitely hide in the space divine object. After all, Mu Tianyang only had 3 strands of divine consciousness left. He didn't dare to show up without absolute confidence. As for whether Mu Tianyang could find his current hiding place, he wasn't worried at all. Because as long as Mu Qing was there, no matter how well he hid, he could be found. Time flew. The injuries on Qin Feiyang's body were almost completely healed. But Mu Tianyang didn't show up. Qin Feiyang couldn't help but frown. Could it be that Yu Huang and Willow Tree didn't make enough noise and didn't alert Mu Tianyang? Should he let Yu Huang and Willow Tree make trouble again? But although the injuries on his body were about to heal, Qin Feiyang's complexion was still pale and powerless. It gave people the feeling that he had suffered a serious internal injury. But in fact, he didn't know. Mu Tianyang and Mu Qing had already found him and were watching him in the cave at this moment. They were also worried that Qin Feiyang was setting a trap for them, so they didn't show up. Mu Qing withdrew her gaze and looked at Mu Tianyang, asking, Lord, could it be that we are thinking too much? Thinking too much? Then tell me, he has the castle. Why is he recuperating here? Isn't the castle safer than here? Mu Tianyang said. In terms of safety, there was no place that could compare to the castle. Instead of using the castle, it was hidden in a cave. No matter how he looked at it, it didn't seem ordinary. I don't think it matters. In any case, we can control spatial divine objects now. If he really has ulterior motives, we can just leave. Mu Qing said. Mu Tianyang pondered for a moment and said, then go out and test it out. Huh? Mu Qing was stunned. Right now, I only have 3 strands of divine sense left. I really don't dare to take the risk. But don't worry, I won't abandon you. If the situation isn't right, I'll immediately capture you and bring you to the spatial divine item. Mu Tianyang said. All right. Mu Qing nodded. After what happened last time, he trusted Mu Tianyang unconditionally. Last time. In the face of Qin Feiyang's coercion, Mu Tianyang didn't hand him over to Qin Feiyang, which showed that Mu Tianyang was really sincere to him. Whoosh! Mu Tianyang waved his hand and Mu Qing immediately appeared in the cave. As soon as Mu Qing appeared, he directly attacked Qin Feiyang without saying a word. You're finally here. Seeing Mu Qing appear, Qin Feiyang also smiled. Fortunately, he kept his composure. Otherwise, he really couldn't see this guy. But as soon as they saw the smile on Qin Feiyang's face, Mu Qing and Mu Tianyang were shocked. This was really a trap. Mu Tianyang waved his hand and the spatial divine item emitted an invisible force, which instantly captured Mu Qing. Then, Mu Tianyang was ready to use the spatial divine item to escape. Don't be nervous. This time, I led you here not to deal with you, but to talk to you about something. Qin Feiyang got up and said. Talk about something? In the spatial divine item. Mu Tianyang and Mu Qing looked at each other. What the hell is this bastard playing this time? Qin Feiyang said very sincerely, I really have something to talk to you about, and it's a very important thing. If it works out, it will be good for you and me. Mu Qing raised her eyebrows and looked at Mu Tianyang, saying, Look at him. He doesn't seem to be joking. A very important thing, Mu Tianyang murmured, go out and talk to him. I will help you at any time. Okay. Mu Qing nodded. Mu Tianyang waved his hand and Mu Qing suddenly appeared in front of Qin Feiyang. Where's Mu Tianyang? Qin Feiyang asked. Mu Qing said, His Majesty is resting. If you have anything to say, you can talk to me. Resting? Qin Feiyang was stunned and said with a smile, I think he's not resting. He doesn't dare to come out. After that, he shook his head and said, to be honest, I really sympathize with him now. A dignified god of war has actually fallen to this point. Shut up. Mu Qing said angrily. I'm just telling the truth. Don't be angry. Mu Tianyang asked you to come here. Does that mean that you can represent him fully? Qin Feiyang said. If you have something to say it quickly. Mu Qing said impatiently. Qin Feiyang asked, do you know where we are now? Where? Mu Qing was suspicious. Qin Feiyang said, this is a human world. A group of aborigines live here. What? Aborigines? Mu Qing's eyes trembled. As far as I know, these aborigines have a lot of wealth. And this wealth is something you can't even imagine in your lifetime. For example, medicinal herbs, divine weapons, and divine arts. The purpose of my visit is actually to loot this wealth. Qin Feiyang said, his eyes shining. Mu Qing fell silent. Qin Feiyang said, you've been here for a few hours. I believe you've already seen the extraordinariness of this place. Indeed. There are precious medicinal herbs everywhere here. I've picked a lot. Mu Qing nodded. Wait. Suddenly. Mu Qing's eyes shot out a sharp light. She stared at Qin Feiyang and said, how do you know we've been here for a few hours? Have you been spying on us? If I was spying on you, I wouldn't have to think of such a way to lure you here. I know all this because of the white-eyed wolf's sense of smell. It judged by its sense of smell. Qin Feiyang said with a faint smile. This beast's nose is really sharper than a dog's. Mu Qing cursed secretly. Qin Feiyang urged, I don't want to waste time. Hurry up and make a decision. Mu Qing was silent. Suddenly. Mu Tianyang appeared, looked at Qin Feiyang and said, are there really divine weapons and divine arts? If you came out earlier, you wouldn't have to waste so much time. Qin Feiyang smiled faintly and nodded. Yes, it is said that there is also a divine weapon comparable to Chang Shui. Mu Tianyang's body trembled. A divine weapon comparable to Chang Shui. If he could get it, wouldn't he be able to compete with Qin Feiyang's Chang Shui in the future? Thinking about it, he couldn't help but feel excited. But after all, he was a very careful person. It was impossible for him to be fooled by Qin Feiyang so easily. He said in a deep voice, is the source of the news reliable? Qin Feiyang waved his hand and a willow tree appeared. Although he was miserably abused by Yu Huang, the injuries on his body had basically scabbed, but he was still very weak. He is. Mu Tianyang looked at the willow tree suspiciously and asked Qin Feiyang. His pupils contracted. It was actually a false god. Qin Feiyang said with a smile, he is a native here. Now he is under our control. What I said was told to me by him. He actually controlled a false god. Mu Tianyang and Mu Qing were shocked. But after thinking about it carefully, they understood. Qin Feiyang subdued the Golden Wolf King and mastered the ability to have infinite qi and blood. He could forcibly revive Chang Shui and the castle. After the revival of Chang Shui and the castle, it couldn't be easier for them to suppress a false god. Mu Tianyang looked at the willow tree and asked, is what he said true? It's true. The willow tree nodded. Mu Tianyang looked at Qin Feiyang and asked in confusion, I'm a little puzzled. Why did you ask me to cooperate with you when you encountered such a good thing? Qin Feiyang said, I just said that the natives here are too strong. I can't handle them alone. Mu Tianyang said, now you can even revive Chang Shui. What are you afraid of? I could revive it before, but now I can't. Because the Qi and Blood Pearl has been shattered. The Qi and Blood Pearl was given to me by the Golden Wolf King. It can give people infinite Qi and blood. Qin Feiyang said helplessly. So that's how it is. Mu Tianyang suddenly understood. After thinking for a while, he said, wait, how did the Qi and Blood Pearl shatter? Qin Feiyang said, it shattered when I fought with the Guardians of the Miracle. What? You fought with that giant python again? Mu Tianyang was surprised. Yes. It's a long story. When you agree, I will tell you slowly on the way. Qin Feiyang said. Mu Tianyang glanced at the willow tree. After pondering for a moment, he looked at Qin Feiyang, nodded, and said, okay, let's cooperate, but there is a condition. Say it. Qin Feiyang said. I don't want the other treasures. I only want the divine artifact that is comparable to Chang Shui. If you don't agree, then don't talk about it. Chapter 1547. You're going too far. For such a divine object, everyone must rely on their own means. Qin Feiyang raised his eyebrows. If he agreed easily, Mu Tianyang and everyone else would be suspicious. Therefore, he had to bargain with him. Mu Qing said, judging from his expression, it should be true. Then we have to fight for the initiative. Mu Tianyang thought to himself. After that, he looked at Qin Feiyang and said, this is my only condition. If you don't agree, then go and find someone else. However, I believe that among the people who entered the first floor, other than me, there shouldn't be anyone who can help you. Mu Qing also said with dissatisfaction, Qin Feiyang, you already have the Chang Shui. Why are you still fighting with us? Nonsense. Who would complain about having too many of such treasures? Why don't we make an exchange? That divine object belongs to me, and the other treasures belong to you. Qin Feiyang said. No. Mu Qing shook her head decisively. Qin Feiyang said angrily, I can't do this, and I can't do that. What on earth do you want? Mu Qing said, we only want that divine object. You, Qin Feiyang was furious. You don't want to. Goodbye. After Mu Tianyang finished speaking, he took Mu Qing into the space divine object. Wait. Qin Feiyang said hurriedly. The two of them appeared out of thin air again. Okay. I promise you. But remember, you can only take that divine object. You can't touch the other things. If you break your promise, I won't be polite. Qin Feiyang snorted coldly. Okay. Mu Tianyang nodded, pointed to Mu Qing next to him, and said, he will go with you later. Be polite to him. Him. Qin Feiyang frowned and said reluctantly, okay, for your sake, I won't embarrass him. Mu Qin clenched her fists tightly. His tone and attitude showed that he didn't take him seriously at all. Calm down. You are no match for him now. You will only be at a disadvantage if you compete with him. Mu Tianyang transmitted his voice. Yes. Mu Qin responded secretly. She suppressed the anger in her heart and loosened her hands. Mu Tianyang looked at Qin Feiyang and said in a deep voice, I hope that you won't cause any trouble in this cooperation. Qin Feiyang said, that's exactly what I wanted to say. Mu Tianyang looked at him deeply and then disappeared without a trace. Qin Feiyang glanced at Mu Qin and then looked at Willow Tree. Lead the way. As he spoke, he winked at Willow Tree. All right. Willow Tree nodded, understanding Qin Feiyang's intentions. They would head directly to the Heavenly Sun Empire's territory. In the mountains. Willow Tree was in the front, Qin Feiyang and Mu Qin were behind, moving as fast as lightning. Suddenly. Willow Tree transmitted his voice to Qin Feiyang, I suddenly thought of something that I should tell you in advance. What is it? Qin Feiyang said secretly. Every force here has their own totems. For example, the Nether Hall has a demonic dragon totem. The main tower has a flame totem. Willow Tree said. Qin Feiyang asked, what is the Heavenly Sun Empire's totem? Willow Tree said secretly, a 5-clawed golden dragon. A 5-clawed golden dragon, Qin Feiyang pondered. According to ancient records, the Heavenly Sun Empire's totem seemed to be a 5-clawed golden dragon. In that case, wouldn't Mu Tianyang be able to recognize it? If he was recognized, wouldn't his plan fail? It seemed that he had to find an opportunity to send Mu Tianyang away and destroy that totem first. Willow Tree said again, your great Qin Empire also has a totem here. Didn't you say that there are no people from the great Qin Empire here? Why is there a totem here? Qin Feiyang was puzzled. It was made by the people of the Heavenly Sun Empire. They made a purple gold divine dragon totem and placed it on the road to enter the city for people to trample. They did this to humiliate the Qin Emperor and the great Qin Empire. Willow Tree transmitted his voice. Preposterous. Qin Feiyang was furious. The purple gold divine dragon was the great Qin Empire's totem. It was personally designed by their ancestors when they conquered the world. Trampling on the totem? That was trampling on the dignity of a nation. How could they do such a thing? These people were really despicable. It could also be seen how narrow-minded the people of the Heavenly Sun Empire were. Is there a war god level existence in the Heavenly Sun Empire here? Qin Feiyang asked secretly. No. Not to mention the Heavenly Sun Empire, even the Vango League and the Fengtian Palace don't have a war god level existence. Willow Tree said. Why? Qin Feiyang was suspicious. There were so many old monsters, why wasn't there a war god level existence? Because of the demonic force. Although people who are entangled by the demonic force can break through to the false god level, they can never step into the war god level. Many peerless figures couldn't escape the calamity of the end of their lifespan. Willow Tree sighed. The so-called calamity of the end of one's lifespan was the passing of one's lifespan. The demonic force, Qin Feiyang raised his eyebrows and secretly checked the situation in his body to see if he could find the demonic force. But in the end, he didn't find any abnormalities in his body. The demonic force can't be seen. But after the demonic force entangles you, a black skull mark will appear on your chest. We will become the demonic force. Willow Tree transmitted his voice. So it's like this. Qin Feiyang nodded in realization. This mark is also the key. When the miracle is not open, no one will care about it. But during the period when the miracle is open and closed, especially when the miracle is closed, every city here will set up a checkpoint. Anyone who enters and leaves will be checked to see if they have the demonic force. Willow Tree said. This isn't difficult to understand. Qin Feiyang secretly said. The reason why the checkpoint was set up at this time was because only during this period of time, there will be newcomers breaking in. The rest of the time, the miracle was closed, so there was no need to check. After running for about half an hour, Willow Tree suddenly stopped and looked at a desolate forest hundreds of miles away with eyes full of fear. What's wrong? Qin Feiyang and Mu Qing looked at him suspiciously. Willow Tree said in a deep voice, in that desolate forest, there is a pseudo-god beast. In order to avoid unnecessary trouble, we'd better take a detour. A pseudo-god beast. Mu Qing's eyes trembled, and she nodded and said, I agree. Qin Feiyang's eyes flashed, and he shook his head and said, I don't agree. Why? The two frowned. Qin Feiyang said with a smile, I just happen to lack a mount. You're simply a madman. Mu Qing said angrily. Without the Qi and blood pearl, he couldn't revive the divine artifact. How could he provoke a pseudo-god beast? Wasn't he courting death? If you don't dare, go to the front and wait for us. Qin Feiyang said lightly, turned to look at Willow Tree, and asked, what kind of beast is it? It's a golden divine leopard. Not to mention its combat power, just its speed is faster than mine. Even if I use the auxiliary divine art, I can't outrun it. I advise you not to have any ideas about it. Willow Tree said in a deep voice. Mu Qing's face couldn't help but turn pale when she heard this. She looked at Qin Feiyang and said, then all the more we can't provoke it. I firmly oppose your idea. Is your objection useful? Qin Feiyang glanced at her disdainfully, then looked at Willow Tree and said, lead the way. Willow Tree hesitated. Qin Feiyang was stunned and said, I don't want to say it again. All right. Willow Tree nodded helplessly, stepped forward, and rushed toward the desolate forest. Qin Feiyang followed closely behind. Idiot, I'm not worthy of you to die. Mu Qing sneered and was about to go around. But at this time, Mu Tianyang's voice sounded in her mind, follow them. What? Mu Qing's face froze. After being together for so long, don't you know Qin Feiyang? Since he dares to go, he must have a certain degree of confidence. Now, he already has a pseudo-god by his side. We can't let him succeed. Otherwise, his foundation will become more and more terrifying. Besides, I also want to know whether the Qi and blood pearl is broken or not. And this is undoubtedly the best opportunity. If he is defeated and the Qi and blood pearl is not broken, he will definitely show it. Mu Tianyang said. Understood. I'll catch up right away. Chapter 1548. Qin Feiyang was not surprised at all when he saw Mu Qing chasing after him. He said with a mocking smile, I didn't expect you to be so bold. Humph. Mu Qing snorted coldly. She turned her head to the side and looked away. Qin Feiyang laughed involuntarily. There was a trace of reminiscence in his eyes. He said, do you still remember the scene when we met for the first time on the Forgotten Continent? Mu Qing frowned. She looked at Qin Feiyang and asked suspiciously, why are you suddenly asking this? Qin Feiyang said, the talent you displayed at that time could be said to be shocking. Mu Qing said angrily, are you mocking me in a disguised way? No, I'm telling the truth. At that time, I thought we could become friends. I didn't expect the situation to be like this. Qin Feiyang shook his head and sighed. He looked very regretful. Mu Qing sneered. I'm not worthy of being your friend. No. The all-seeing eye is rare. Those who have the all-seeing eye are all people with great fortune. I'm not worthy of being their friend. Qin Feiyang said. What are you trying to say? Mu Qing said impatiently. Actually, I really want to be your friend. Because I believe that if the two of us join forces, we'll definitely be stronger than you and Mu Tianyang. But I also know that it's impossible. Qin Feiyang said. Mu Qing said coldly, you know it's impossible and you still say it? It's better to say it out loud. In short, if one day you're tired of staying by Mu Tianyang's side, you're welcome to come to me at any time. Qin Feiyang said with a smile. Mu Qing ignored him. Qin Feiyang didn't say anything more. Anyway, he had achieved his goal. He didn't really want to poach Mu Qing away from Mu Tianyang. Instead, it planted a seed of conflict in both Mu Qing and Mu Tianyang's hearts. Mu Qing was a proud person, and so was Mu Tianyang. Two prideful people who had been together for a long time were bound to have friction. And these frictions would become the seeds of this seed, allowing it to gradually germinate. Once this seed matured, it would definitely become the fuse that would cause the two of them to fall out. A moment passed. Under Willow Tree's guidance, the two of them finally entered the desolate forest. As soon as they entered the desolate forest, they sensed a despairing aura. This aura came from the center of the forest. No ferocious beast dared to approach this place. Are we really going in? Willow Tree stopped again and looked at Qin Feiyang. Of course. Qin Feiyang nodded and took the lead. Without concealing his aura, he directly rushed in. Damn it! Willow Tree cursed and quickly chased after him. Mu Qing glanced around and didn't follow. Instead, she ran to a mountain more than 100 feet high and stood on the peak, looking at Qin Feiyang from afar. Roar! All of a sudden, a beast's roar sounded, shaking the sky and the earth. Leaves flew everywhere. Qin Feiyang stopped and looked ahead. Through the forest, he could vaguely see a vague beast shadow. Willow Tree's face was pale. He looked at Qin Feiyang and said, "My God, why can't you not go?" No. Qin Feiyang waved his hand. His battle chi rolled out and turned into a huge wave, pouncing on the beast's shadow. Crack! Boom! Wherever it passed, large trees would shatter in response, and the ground would crack and collapse crazily. How dare you break into my territory? You're courting death. An enraged roar exploded. Following closely, a monstrous ferocious power covered the sky and pounced on Qin Feiyang and Mu Qing. Willow Tree's face changed. He hurriedly stood in front of Qin Feiyang and blasted at the ferocious power. With a loud bang, an apocalyptic storm rose from the ground and swept out in all directions. In less than an instant, the area within 1,000 miles was razed to the ground. Not a single blade of grass was left. Dust billowed and the scene was devastated. It was like a land of death. Mu Qing was not spared. The mountain under his feet collapsed with a loud bang. His whole body was submerged in the mud. When he came out again, his hair was disheveled and his face was covered in blood. He was in an extremely sorry state. They're fighting so soon. Bastard, is it necessary to be so impatient? Looking at Qin Feiyang's insufferably arrogant back, Mu Qing was so angry that she went crazy. Swish! Suddenly, a golden light rushed into the sky and revealed its true body. It was a golden leopard. Its body was 5 to 6 meters long and its limbs were thick and powerful. Its fur was as dazzling as gold leaf. The eyes of its 2 fists were also shining with golden light and were extremely dazzling. Its aura was extremely strong and shook the heavens and earth. It lowered its head and swept its gaze across Mu Qing, Willow Tree, and Qin Feiyang. Its golden eyes were filled with anger. These 3 small fries actually dared to come and provoke it. Qin Feiyang looked up at the golden leopard and asked, "Are you the king of this place?" His tone and gaze were both overbearing and domineering. The golden leopard was furious and shouted, do you have a problem with that? No. But I like you. Be my mount. I guarantee that you'll have a better future with me than here. Qin Feiyang said. Ah. The golden leopard looked at Qin Feiyang in shock as if it was looking at a funny clown. All of a sudden. It grinned and said, sure, I'll be your mount. This, Willow Tree and Mu Qin were both stunned. What was going on? Qin Feiyang just casually said it, and it really agreed. But Qin Feiyang didn't dare to be careless. How could a divine beast agree so easily? There must be a problem. However, he didn't care too much and chuckled, you're quite sensible. I like it, follow me. Alright, stand there and don't move. I'll be right down. The golden leopard also laughed happily. Then, it slowly flew towards Qin Feiyang. But just as it was about to reach Qin Feiyang, its speed suddenly increased. It opened its bloody mouth, revealing rows of sharp fangs, and bit towards Qin Feiyang. Qin Feiyang said, Willow Tree, teach him a lesson. Willow Tree's face was about to turn green, but it could only bite the bullet. Bang bang bang. Boom. One man and one beast collided several times in the air. Willow Tree was no match for it and was sent flying. The golden leopard's speed was faster than his to begin with. Not to mention, not long ago, he had been beaten up by Yu Huang and had yet to recover his vitality. How could he be a match for the golden leopard? The golden leopard stood in the air, glanced at Willow Tree, and looked at Qin Feiyang. Your little follower's strength isn't that great. Hearing this, Qin Feiyang immediately flew into a rage out of humiliation. He looked at Willow Tree and shouted, I originally hoped that you would beat it down, but I didn't expect you to be so useless. You were beaten down by it in just a few moves. Willow Tree got up with a wronged look on its face. Qin Feiyang coughed dryly, raised his head to look at the golden divine beast, and said with a smile, sorry, I was just joking just now. Sorry to disturb you, goodbye. With that, he rushed to Willow Tree's side and shouted, let's go. Go where? Willow Tree was a little dumbfounded. Nonsense, of course we're going to escape from this damned place. Qin Feiyang scolded in annoyance. Escape? Willow Tree was stunned, and immediately grabbed Qin Feiyang, used an auxiliary divine art, and disappeared in the blink of an eye. He had wanted to escape for a long time, but Qin Feiyang didn't say anything, so he didn't dare. You're escaping just like that? What about me? Mu Qin was stunned. You came here to cause trouble for no reason and want to escape. Is that possible? The golden leopard laughed mockingly and chased after Qin Feiyang. Mu Qin also came back to her senses and quickly ran away. But suddenly, the golden leopard came back and stood in front of Mu Qin, saying, I almost forgot about you, little fish. Mu Qin's face changed, and she hurriedly said, Senior, I have nothing to do with them. Would you have come if you didn't have a problem? Do you think I'm an idiot? The golden leopard smiled coldly, raised its paw and slapped at Mu Qin. Qin Feiyang, you bastard, I won't let you go. Mu Qin roared again and again, and just as she was about to be killed, she suddenly disappeared without a trace. Obviously, it was Mu Tianyang who saved her. And as soon as Mu Qin arrived at the space divine object, Mu Tianyang immediately drove the space divine object and chased after Qin Feiyang. Gone. The golden leopard was stunned, and a trace of surprise appeared in its eyes. It murmured, it's actually a space divine object? Then I can't let you escape. You're tuning into the Han Li's Wuxia Chronicles YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.